Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description.
A Crew for a King by Fallen Angel Codester. To become king of the pirates, you need a crew. And in order to reach his dream, Luffy will need all the help he can get. Extended crew story. Slightly more serious Luffy. Adios.
It took them way too long to get to the castle. Vivi's mane of blue hair made her a beacon in the capital, and everyone nearby noticed her. Guards from all over followed their procession through the streets, cheering and crying for her return. At first she put on a face and thanked everyone, but soon it got annoying to deal with. Surely they realized they weren't out of this yet, right? After what felt like an eternity, they finally made it to the castle. They entered, and allowed themselves to be guided through the halls to the throne room. The captain sent to fetch her threw the doors open, revealing the inside. It looked the same as Vivi remembered it, which made her feel for the first time she was really home. The only thing that looked different was the long, rectangular table in the center of the room with a map of Alubarna on it. Standing beside it, turning at the sound of the door open, was Chaka. When he caught sight of her, his eyes and smile widened. "Princess," he shouted happily, making her smile as he rushed to her and hugged her. "You've returned safely." She mumbled as she hugged him back, allowing herself to feel vulnerable for a moment. "I am. I hate to cut this short," Koza said, "but we have no time right now for teary reunions. We need to talk strategy." Chaka made a dissatisfied sound, but separated from her all the same and turned to Koza. "As you say," he said, "but first, I need to give you thanks, Koza." "Why's that?" Koza demanded. Chaka gave him a stern bow. "I must thank you for calling of the rebels," he said. "Had you not, I fear the war would have truly started." Koza made a sound at this and elbowed Vivi. "You should be thanking the princess," he said. "If she hadn't risked life and limb to get to me and tell me the truth, I would have come to Alubarna much differently." Vivi scoffed at this. "You should be thanking them," she said, gesturing to Najiko, Yosaku and Usopp. "Without the help of them and their crew, I wouldn't have made it back here alive." "Ah," Chaka said, "you must be the princess's hired help. Which of you is in charge?" "I guess I am," Najiko said, stepping forward. "Name is Najiko, quartermaster of the Straw Hat Pirates." Chaka watched her warily. "Quartermaster, huh?" he asked. "Where's your captain?" "Rainbase," Najiko answered, "alive, hopefully. But we don't have time to wait for him. What's the plan?" "Right, of course," Chaka said. He turned and walked back to the table, everyone else following him. "So far, the plan has been pretty generic. We spent all our time fortifying our defenses outside in case of an invading force. But, as I'm sure you've guessed, we're pretty vulnerable to an attack from within. We already know there are agents in the rebels," Koza said with a grim expression. "I wouldn't be surprised if some have already told Crocodile about the situation. So we should expect the fighting to happen in the streets," Vivi said as she pointed at the sections of the map closest to the castle. "We need to fortify these clocks here. If Crocodile wants something in the castle, he'll get in as close as he can." I have an idea," Usopp said, speaking up. Everyone turned to him, making him pale. He shakily pointed down at the map, saying, "These buildings are all pretty tall. He could put scouts in the upper floors to keep an eye on everything. Who knows, they may see something." "That's a good idea," Koza said to back him up. "We'll get some soldiers in the buildings." "Indeed," Chaka said. "We should also," Usopp said, speaking up again. "Chaka, sir, do we have a ton of stored liquid around?" "Liquid?" Chaka asked. Well, there is a candy shop nearby that uses honey and syrup for candies." "Good," Usopp said, leaning forward and pointing at the stairs that led into the city. "All the major ways in are these stairways, right? We should use the honey and syrup to coat the stairs. That way, any invading force from there can be stopped. From there, they can be picked off by our guys." "That's a good idea," Chaka admitted. "Good idea, kid. Hey, you," he shouted at the guard by the door. "Take some men and go to the candy shop. Take all the honey and syrup and pour in down the stairs." "Yes, sir," the guard shouting, leaving. "Where did you get that idea, big bro?" Yosaku asked. Usopp blushed. Well, something similar happened before, he admitted. You guys weren't around. I guess we never told you that story. Nijiko laughed and clapped him on the shoulder. Good idea, Usopp, she said. We still have to contend with the fact that we can't surprise our enemy, Koza said. Crocodile spies will inform him of what happens. Well, if we can't do it, let's stop wasting time thinking about it, Nijiko advised. We'll just talk ourselves in circles. Agreed, Chaka said. We can't waste our time talking about spies. We know they're here, but we can't do much about it. We still need to fortify the castle, Vivi said, gesturing to the map's reconstruction of the castle walls. Get men on every entranceway. Keep the high ground, and fight in tight alleyways. We don't know if we have the numbers advantage, but given Crocodile's strength, we're probably weaker. We need to play to our strengths. Koza, do you know how long it will take the rest of your rebels to get here? A few more hours, at least, Koza replied, running a hand through his hair. So they might not even get here until the fighting ends. Not good, Chaka said. Even with the men you brought with you, our numbers are only around 2,000. So we do what Vivi said, Nijiko replied. Play to our strengths, don't let the enemy overwhelm us. I have a question, Yosaku said. Everyone looked at him, making him look unsure, but he still spoke up. What about the number agents? Silence came upon the group as they realized they had not account for the higher-ups of Baroque works. Yosaku has a point, Usopp said. What do we do when they show up? They can probably cut through our soldiers easily. It might come down to us, Vivi said, trying to remain calm. Say what? Yosaku asked. The numbers agents are strong, Vivi explained. The average soldier wouldn't be able to stop them. But we might be able to stop them. Like we did before. I don't know if you've noticed, Vivi, Usopp said weakly. But we sent the strongest fighters after Crocodile. Well, they aren't here, Vivi shouted, her facade shattering. And we have no idea if they'll show up at all. So what do we do? Exactly. More silence came over them. Vivi taking a deep breath. I'm sorry for shouting, but we can't. We can't expect them to show up. Especially if Crocodile does. Vivi is right, Koza said. We can't just expect more backup if it might not come. We fight under the impression we're alone. I hope that isn't the case, Yosaku murmured, or we may be in trouble. Just outside of Alarbarna there was a mountain of dark brown rock, which watched the city's chaos without a word. Of course, as a rock couldn't speak. The people on it could, though. So our only advantage is we have the king, Mr. One said. This is a shit show. It wouldn't have been if Mr. Two hadn't messed it all up, Ms. Doublefinger said, hands on her hips. How is it you didn't see the princess aboard that ship? There was a lot of them, Mr. Two shouted, stopping mid-pirouette to complain, and she was hiding. How is it that you're number 2, M's Merry Christmas? A stout loud woman complained. You're more useless than that guy. She jabbed her thumb at her own partner, Mr. Fore. He looked at her slowly, his large, pudgy face pretty vacant. I am not, he started, speaking slowly. Don't talk, you slow down the conversation. M's Merry Christmas shouted. Where the hell is Mr. Zero? Anyway? Enough waiting around? King Cobra Nefertari watched the chaos quietly, trying to figure out a plan for himself. Watch your tongue, Ms. Merry Christmas, a new, deep voice said. Lest I cut it from your fat, always open mouth. Looking up with the agents, Cobra saw the last pay. Crocodile was standing above them on a peak on the mountain, Ms. All Sunday with him. He looked a little roughed up, but otherwise just annoyed. As for Ms. All Sunday, she had an empty smile plastered on her face. You're here, Mr. One said as he descended from the peak. About time. I will not be judged by a group of people who have done nothing but disappoint me, Crocodile snapped. If your help wasn't useful, I'd be done with all of you. He's just mad the Straw Hats gave him a hard time, M's All Sunday said. Shut your mouth, Nico Robin, Crocodile hissed. This made Cobra's eyes widen. Nico Robin. The devil child. Why is she working with Crocodile? What does she hope to gain? So what's the plan? Ms. Doublefinger asked. Simple, Crocodile replied. The lot of you, and I, are going to storm Alubarna. In the time it took me to get here, I coordinated with our subordinates to get into position. As it stands, the billions and millions are in underground tunnels leading to the capital. On my orders, I'll open up the tunnels for them to flood into the city. We will head straight to the castle. With any luck, I'll cut off the princess's head myself. Anything else? Mr. One asked. Yes, he said, Ms. All Sunday, you'll be heading into the tombs with the king. After we use him as our leverage, of course. Cobra's eyes widened at this, all eyes now on him. What? He asked, confused. Don't play dumb, your majesty, Crocodile said sarcastically. My friend here has an interest in the treasure you have hidden down there. You know the one, large, square, carved in rock. Cobra's eyes widened even more at this. What do you want with some old rock? He tried to lie, making Crocodile laugh. I just said don't play dumb, he replied. You know damn well that old rock is more important than that. Will you be fine, Nico Robin? Do you think I can't handle myself against some old man? Robin asked. Crocodile gave no answer. Are we ready? Crocodile asked. Everyone gave a curt nod. Then let's take this country for ourselves. Vivi watched the soldiers rushing across Alubarna quietly, her mind racing to come up with any other openings that needed to be covered. She couldn't think of any, and in turn this annoyed her. There had to be something they weren't accounting for, right? Something. Vivi, a voice said. Turning, the princess saw Najiko standing there with a hand on her hip, smiling. Think of any more ideas? She asked. Vivi shook her head quietly. No, she replied, but I know I can come up with something. I think we're as covered as we can be given the situation, the woman replied with a snort. Seen the others yet? No, Vivi said, and I'm getting more worried the more time they take. I'm sure they're fine, Najiko said. Looking over, Vivi saw that the girl was clutching the railing so hard her knuckles were turning white. Of course she was worried. Nami was with the others. She'll be fine, Vivi said reassuringly, making Najiko smile weakly. Yeah, she said. She'll be fine. As the girls stared out at the city, Vivi had a quick feeling of hope. Maybe they'd be okay. Things would be fine. She regretted saying that 2 seconds later. The ground beneath her feet began to shudder, forcing her to grab the railing harder to prevent falling over. Najiko almost fell over the railing, gritting her teeth at the shuddering. Soon it stopped, but neither of them let go of the rail for fear it would begin again. What the hell was that? Najiko demanded. I don't know, but it didn't sound. Vivi was cut off by a roar beneath her, followed by gunfire and explosions. Looking over the city, Vivi watched in horror as battle erupted all over the city, Baroque Works agents appearing out of thin air. Where the hell did they come from? She demanded angrily, not able to believe they'd come from nowhere. Stay out of the fight, Najiko said, already barking orders. I'll find Yosaku and Usopp, and we'll help stop them. I can help, Vivi replied. No, Najiko said. You're on Crocodile's hit list. Stay out of the fight. With this the quartermaster ran off, leaving Vivi alone by the window. Gritting her teeth, she turned back and looked out the window again. Where the hell had they come from? It didn't. Her train of thought was cut off when she saw sinkholes in the ground outside the palace. Crocodile had gotten them into the city, hadn't he, using his devil fruit power. Damn it all, now Usopp's idea isn't going to work. Not only that, but we're disorganized. Luffy, where the hell are you guys? Deciding she could watch no longer, she turned and ran down the hall in the direction of the throne room where Chaka was. Reaching her destination, she barged inside to see Chaka sweating over the table with the map. Vivi, he shouted as he saw her come in, thank goodness you're safe. What's the plan? Vivi asked. They came in through sinkholes. No doubt thanks to Crocodile, Chaka said with a grimace. But it's good you came to me, Vivi. We have to flee. Vivi stared at him as if he'd grown a second head. What? She yelled. We can't leave. We just planned our defenses in. Princess, Crocodile will probably come right for the palace. He shouted back, interrupting him. He has no reason to fight soldiers, we need to. You're as smart as they say, Chaka the Jackal. An eerie voice said. Turning, Vivi's eyes widened as a tall, scarred man walked into the room, a familiar woman beside him. Ms. All Sunday, she squeaked. The woman smiled at her. Hello again, Princess, she said. Princess, behind me. Chaka shouted. Vivi turned to run behind the man, seeing him turn into his hybrid form. After all, Chaka had eaten the jackal devil fruit. She didn't have the time to think of its original name. Crocodile said, a smirk on his face. The warlord gestured, and Ms. All Sunday raised her hands. Vivi's heart nearly stopped when her father was rolled in by hands sprouting out of the floor, then being hoisted up by Crocodile. One wrong move, Crocodile warned as he pressed his claw to her father's throat, and King Cobra goes goodbye. Vivi grit her teeth, nearly cracking them as Jackal returned to his human form. That's a good dog. Now, Nico Robin, you know what to do. Smiling, Ms. All Sunday raised her hands again. The appendages sprouted from Chaka this time, and Vivi gasped as the limbs forced him into a painful-looking choke hold. Princess, Chaka hissed through the pain, run away. She'll be running nowhere if she values her father's life, Crocodile said. Which I'm sure she does, right princess? Vivi clenched her fists angrily. She wanted to whip out her peacock spinners and separate Crocodile's head from his body, but she knew it wouldn't work. If he'd managed to get by Luffy and the others. The others? What did you do to my friends? She croaked out weakly. Crocodile laughed. Those flimsy straw hats? He asked. They're far underneath the sands of Rainbase by now. You have more important things to worry about right now, don't you? She did. But Vivi didn't want to accept what she was hearing. Luffy and the others were gone? Dead? She didn't believe it. She cast her eyes towards Ms. All Sunday. But her gaze was inscrutable. She'd get nothing from staring at her. So, what do you want? She managed. Vivi don't, Chaka hissed before the hands on him tightened their grip. What I want? Crocodile asked. That's easy. Firstly, you will walk across this room and come to me. Got that? Vivi gulped, weighing her options. She realized quick she had none. Crocodile had outsmarted them. He was too strong. Gritting her teeth, she began to walk across the room. Her body tried to fight her at every step, but there was no point. She could do nothing on her own. This was it. That's a good girl, Crocodile said as she stood in front of them. Now, Nico Robin, I believe you have a place to be. That I do, Ms. All Sunday said. Hands sprouted from her father once more, forcing him into an uncomfortable position as well. Father. VVSHNG and nasty crack, her father groaned. I swear, Crocodile, he hissed under his breath, if you lay a hand on my daughter. I won't, so long as you do as Nico Robin asks of you, Crocodile replied. Now go on. Show her what you know we want. Ms. All Sunday. Vivi supposed her name was Nico Robin, walked away towards another end of the palace. This left Crocodile and Vivi alone with Chaka, who was nearly unconsciousness from the hands choking him. Walk, kid, Crocodile ordered, towards the balcony. Shaking badly, Vivi did as she was ordered. She and Crocodile slowly walked over to the balcony and stepped out onto it. Chaos reigned outside. Baroque Works agents poured out of the holes in the city like ants, overflowing into the city and fighting the royal army and rebels. Gunshots rang out. Steel on steel clashed, and screams of pain followed. It was anarchy. This was the only end, you know. Crocodile said as her shaking. You were a fool to think a bunch of children could fight me. People without hockey can't take me out. Hockey? What was that? It's not over, Vivi hissed weakly. Crocodile laughed. How do you figure? He asked, gesturing to the city. Your capital is in chaos. I have taken you and your father, and soon Nico Robin will deliver what I want. In what way have I lost? It's not over yet, she hissed, not as long as Alabastans resist you, Crocodile snorted. Soon this country will be all mine, he said. No one who resists me will even live here. You failed, princess. It's okay to admit it. I failed before too. It hurts, feels like your stomach wants to empty out of your body, I get it. But this is what happens when you mess with the higher powers. You gambled, and you lost. Now, I believe you and I have a date with destiny. Vivi gasped as Crocodile lifted her up by grabbing her clothes with his claw, lifting her up into the sky. Why, you said you weren't going to hurt me, she said, trying to free herself from the claw. I lied, Crocodile answered simply. I can't let you live, you understand. That would let rebels rally around you. I'd have to deal with you later anyway. Take one last look at your home, Princess Vivi. It in chaos will be the last thing you ever see. Vivi's eyes were inevitably drawn to the city she loved. She watched as people cut each other down, unable to do a thing. She hadn't been able to stop the bloodshed. Her people were still dying, because she hadn't succeeded. This was it. Rain began to pelt her face, mixing with the tears that began to fall. Wait, rain? Vivi looked up at the sky, and found that the sky over Alubarna had grown dark with storm clouds. Now of all times it rained. What poetic irony! But something was wrong. As she looked, outside the city was bright and sunny still. A storm localized inside of Alubarna's borders? That was odd. Crocodile too had paused, looking up in confusion. What is this? He demanded. They both remained still for a moment, staring at the sky, before a flash appeared overhead. To Vivi it looked like a bird had flown overhead, but it had disappeared and left a blip in the sky. A blip that was falling towards them quickly. As it got closer, her eyes widened. No way. She breathed. There's no way, Crocodile hissed. I killed him. I know I did. All of them should be. Gum gum pistol. Luffy exclaimed angrily, fist slamming into Crocodile's face. The force of the impact threw the warlord over the balcony, tumbling down into the palace courtyard below. Luffy landed before her, a scowl on his face. Sorry we're late, Vivi, he said, fixing the straw hat on his head, but he had a bumpy right here. He said he killed you, Vivi said, trying to stay on her feet. And yet here I am, Luffy replied. Go and stay safe, Vivi. Nami and I will take down Crocodile. Nami? Vivi asked, looking up. She could see the bird now, circling the palace. Is that Pell? What is happening? Luffy smirked. We're winning round 2, he shouted, pumping his fists into the air. Don't worry Vivi, I won't let Croc take this country for himself. With this, Luffy jumped off the balcony down to Crocodile, leaving her in the rain listening to the sounds of combat. Finally, after a few seconds, she smiled. These pirates are unbelievable, she said with a laugh. Vivi? Vivi looked up as someone called her name, the bird-like figure dropping towards her. She'd already figured out who it was. Pell, she exclaimed as the other commander of the army landed, carrying Nami, Marianne and Chopper with him. You're here. Indeed, Pell said with a smile. I brought your friends with me too. The 2 girls and Chopper were released from his grasp, and they ran to her. Did you stop the rebels? Nami asked. Vivi nodded. They're fighting with the army right now, she said, gesturing to the chaos. We stopped the civil war, but it's still a war. Nami nodded, frowning. Are Nijiko and the others okay? She asked, Vivi nodding. Yes of course, she replied. They're fine. You're hurt though. What happened? Nami frowned as she played with her bandages. Crocodile got the better of us, she said, it won't happen again. We'll kick his ass this time, Chopper added enthusiastically. I need to get back in the air, Nami said, turning to Pell. Can you handle 1 person without a rumble ball? Of course, Pell replied. Come with me. What are you going to do? Vivi asked. Luffy said you were helping him. Nami grinned and twirled her staff in her hand. Crocodile's weakness is rain, Nami said. I can create rain with my staff. Well, with Marianne's help, anyway. Her work with chemicals was a lifesaver. Marianne hid her face behind her hat. It was nothing, she excused. Anyway, Nami said, I have to keep the rainstorm going to help Luffy. Let's go, Pell. Right. Transforming, Pell flapped his wings and carried Nami high into the air, taking off from the palace. Wait, where are Zoro, Sanji and Johnny? Vivi asked Chopper. We let them off earlier to help in the fight, Chopper replied. They know to look for number agents. What should we do, Vivi? The princess frowned as she thought this over. Ms. All Sunday took my father somewhere in the palace, she said. We could go and stop her. About that, Marianne said. Ms. All Sunday saved our lives. What? Vivi asked. How? Marianne explained to her how they had lost against Crocodile in Rainbase, and then about how Ms. All Sunday had stopped Nami and the others from being killed without raising suspicion from Crocodile. It's possible she's going to betray Crocodile, Marianne surmised. Maybe we can forego looking for your father right now. Is that safe? Chopper asked. What if she's just as bad, but doesn't want to kill us? Vivi made a face and crossed her arms, thinking this over. She was interrupted by an explosion in the city. We have bigger problems, she said. We need to stop the fighting first. My father will be okay. I know he will be. We need to take out Baroque works. Bringing her fingers to her mouth, Vivi whistled as loud as she could. It took a few seconds, but Karoo rounded the corner of the palace and raced for her, looking alert and ready. Are you going to fight too? Marianne asked. I have to, Vivi replied. This is my home. I can't let it go down like this, Marianne smiled. Well, let's go and stop them, then. Deep in the bowels of Alubarna's royal palace, Nico Robin led King Nefertari Cobra down a flight of stairs. She made sure to keep her devil fruits effect on him lax, but she knew she could tighten the hands on him at a moment's notice. You don't have to do this, Cobra said as he stopped at a door. Robin smiled at him. If what I think is down here, I actually do, she said. After all, there is a Poneglyph in the Tomb of the Kings, right? Cobra's eyes widened and he turned to her. So you are after the artifact, he exclaimed, making her nod. I am, she replied. But no one can read it, Cobra explained. The text on it has been lost for centuries. I can read it. You? What? Cobra asked. I can read the Poneglyph, Your Highness, Robin clarified. Now, if you please, show me the secret entrance to the... A gunshot rang out behind her, and Robin froze. Let the king go, someone shouted. Looking over her shoulder, Robin saw she had been tailed. Standing behind her were 3 of the Straw Hats, all aiming their weapons at her. Ah, she said, you were following us? Waiting for an opening, the woman with blue hair replied as she cocked the hammer of her revolver back. I'll say it again. Let the king go. Dee don't make any sudden moves. The man behind her said, aiming sniper rifle at her, or else. Give big sis Vivi's father back, the bald swordsman said, ready to rush her. Robin examined the trio warily, knowing full well her powers could not stop gunshot. I'm so close. I can't let them stop me. I'm afraid I still need the king, she said, hands raised. But this doesn't need to end in bloodshed. It will unless you give us the king, the woman insisted. You already killed Igaram. We don't need to listen to you. Ah, right. They still think I did that. Right, she said. Well, how's this, then? I saved your friends at Rainbase. The 3 clearly paused at what she said, the blue-haired one lowering her weapon somewhat. What did you say? She demanded. Robin shrugged. The fight against Crocodile at Rainbase was going very well for him, she said. He would have killed all of your friends then and there. Well, if I hadn't stepped in, that is. What, you appealed to his better nature? The woman asked coldly. No, I put myself at risk by pulling them out of the way or out of the sand discreetly, Robin replied. The woman narrowed her eyes at her, and the sniper started shaking again. I saved their lives, does that not account for anything? Who cares? The girl asked, stealing her resolve. You've still got the king hostage, let him go. I will not, Robin said, growing agitated. However, perhaps we can make a deal. What is your name? Don't give it to her, the sniper insisted. The woman glared at her hard. You first, she said. Nico Robin, she said. You may call me Robin. She did not reply right away, but soon she shuffled on her feet. Nijiko, she said. So talk. What are you on about? Nijiko, Robin said. I know your allies are probably out there trying to stop Crocodile. I could assist you, in exchange for not shooting at me anymore. How do you figure? Nijiko asked. I could tell you the powers and locations of the numbers agents, she said, and in exchange, you leave me and the king to our business. We can't do that, Nijiko. The sniper insisted, she's the enemy. Let me think, Nijiko snapped. The woman scanned her face for a good long while, not saying anything. It's a good deal, I think, Robin said lightly. Nijiko hummed and crossed her arms. Back at Whiskey Peak, she said, you gave us an eternal pose for Alabasta. I did. You knew Little Garden was an ambush, didn't you? I did. And you said you saved my crew. I did, Robin repeated again, trying to discern Nijiko's opinion. She was clearly thinking hard, and from what she could see both men were waiting on her order. She must have been their superior. The number agents are very powerful, she said. You risk losing some of your friends if you aren't prepared. I'm willing to give you what you need to win. All you have to do is turn around and leave us be. Nijiko began tapping her foot on the ground. Nijiko, the sniper said in her ear, Luffy won't like if we let her keep the cane. Luffy isn't here, Usopp, Nijiko replied, and I'm third in command. Ga, Yosaku, help me out. We can't trust her, the swordsman shifted on his feet uncomfortably. I trust big sis Nijiko, he said, she knows what to do. Usopp looked annoyed at this, returning to aiming at Robin. After a few more tense seconds, Nijiko unfolded her arms and put her hands on her hips. "On one condition," she said. "Which is?" Robin asked. "If you touch a hair on the king's head," the woman said, glowering at her, "I'll hunt you down for the rest of my life. I won't let you get away with betraying me." Robin smiled at this. "You won't have to worry about that," she said. "I won't lay a finger on him." "Let him in," Nijiko told her. Reluctant, Robin did as she was ordered. The hands holding King Cobra stiffly in place disappeared. "Happy?" she asked. Nijiko nodded. "I am. Now, tell me everything you know about your allies. Spare no information. Oh, and I dare you to double-cross me and hurt the king. I'll kill you." "Is there any reason you're still hanging around with me?" Zoro demanded. The two of them were running through the streets of Alubarna, taking out scores of Baroque Works members on their way. "Oh please," Sanji replied, "if I left you alone you'd end up back in Little Garden." "I'm not that stupid. I debate that." Zoro paused and glared at Sanji, who gave it as good as he got. They stopped running and nearly came to blows over this, but Zoro stopped him when they heard a strange shout. Looking forward, Zoro watched as a mountain of a man slashed through a squad of soldiers, sending them flying every which way. The most unnerving part was that the Mont's body itself was the blades. His forearms and legs sharpened into steel as he slashed through the soldiers who came for him, before turning to the two of them. "Well, this guy's bad news," Sanji said pointedly, huffing on his cigarette. "What gave it away?" Zoro asked as he drew his swords. The man stopped 24 feet from them, the battlefield growing silent around them. Zoro clenched his jaw. "You need to get out of here, shitty cook. This guy means business." "Don't tell me what to do," Sanji replied irritably. "I'm seriously," Zoro said as he reached for Wado Ichimonji. "Last thing we need is you losing those precious legs of yours." "Don't look down on me, Marimo," Sanji replied. "I can look out for myself." "Yeah? You want to go up against that?" Sanji took another look at the man when asked this. As if to reply, the man raised a hand and it glinted with steel as sword edges creased his inner fingers. Sanji audibly gulped. "I'm making it known I'm not listening to you," the cook noted. "It's just that you're better suited to fight him, got it?" "Just go already, you moron," Zoro replied. Sanji took the hint and fled, leaving the two of them alone amid the bleeding bodies of Alabasta soldiers. "You were a fool to send your help away," the man said. "I get the distinct feeling someone without a sword would have a hard time fighting you," Zoro said. The two paced in a circle, watching each other warily. "You shouldn't have," the man replied. "You have ensured you will die alone." "I could say the same thing about you," Zoro said. They paused in their circling. Zoro kept an eye on every inch of the man, doing his best to notice any change in him that told of an attack. "Could I get a name before you kill me?" he asked sarcastically. "You can't," the man replied as he readied a stance, "but you'll get a code name, Mr. One." "Ah, that must mean you're pretty high up on this stupid bounty hunter crap we've gotten messed up in," Zoro said. "Second strongest?" "Indeed," Mr. One said. "You'll find cutting me with those pathetic blades quite impossible." "I guess we'll just see," Zoro replied. Another beat of silence came before them. Then, the battle erupted. Placing Wado Ichimonji in his mouth, Zoro charged forth and brought his blades together, aiming for the Mr. One's chest. His attack was blocked by the Mont's forearms, which grew sharp blade edges and clashed against him. Zoro pushed his strength against Mr. One's, but the mountain man had a muscle difference between them, and pushed him back. Sliding to a stop, Zoro clicked his teeth as he took Wado Ichimonji out of his mouth. "Goddamn devil fruit powers," he noted, "you freaks are annoying to fight." "How foolish to come to a fight with a fruit user unprepared," Mr. One commented as his forearms glinted in the desert sun. "I became a blade man after I ate the dice fruit. I can turn any part of my body into a blade. No swordsman will ever beat me." "I didn't ask for a synopsis," Zoro replied flatly. "Ready yourself and fight." He charged again, meeting Mr. One's leg with his blades. They exchanged a flurry of blows, but none of Zoro's attacks made contact with skin, only steel. They clashed over and over, but he made no headway. He bounced backwards after deflecting a blow from the forearm blade, narrowing his eyes at Mr. One. Seems he wasn't kidding. Every part of his body can become a sharp blade. How will I get around this, I wonder? Big bro Zoro. A voice called, making Zoro's eyes widen. He looked over his shoulder and saw a familiar shades-wearing swordsman running up to him. You and big bro Sanji are too fast, I got left behind. Get out of here, Johnny, Zoro shouted. This is dangerous. Johnny seemed slow to comprehend the situation, but once he did he yelped in surprise. Ah, that's a number agent, isn't it? And he looks tough as hell. Don't worry big bro. I've got your back. He drew his blade, and Zoro grunted in frustration. I said get out of here, he said, you're not ready to fight this guy yet. I can't leave you, Johnny replied. Just get OU. Zoro had been too distracted to catch Mr. One's surprise attack. He just barely managed to block it, narrowly avoiding getting his jugular sliced open. He pushed with all his might, managing to put some space between him and Mr. One. Big bro! Johnny cried out. Johnny, this is an order from not only your superior, but your teacher, Zoro shouted. Go! This is Mr. One, the second strongest, go and help somebody else. How can I abandon my teacher against such a foe? Johnny demanded. We fight together. Zoro groaned in frustration. You're such an... Mr. One attacked again, but this time he blasted past Zoro and went for Johnny. His student looked unprepared, but was raising his blade all the same. Johnny! Zoro cried, rushing to catch Mr. One. Sadly, he couldn't. The two connected. Johnny blocking Mr. One's bladed palm and fingers with his sword. The tatted swordsman grunted in the exertion it took to keep Mr. One off of him, who looked indifferent to his struggle. You're much weaker than your ally, Mr. One noted, pathetic strength for someone in the Grand Line. Did you expect to get anywhere with this level of power? In one swift movement, Mr. One raised his leg and sliced Johnny across the front, sending him backwards in a spurt of blood. Johnny! Zoro shouted angrily, leaping the remaining distance to Mr. One. He brought his blades down on him, but Mr. One simply turned the points where Zoro's blades connected into blades, effectively blocking him. What did I just tell you? Mr. One demanded. No swordsman will beat me, not unless they can cut through solid steel. Mr. One grabbed him by the arm, his fingers becoming blades and digging into him. Zoro was launched over Mr. One's head into a nearby building, cracking the wall as he made impact. He landed in what looked like a kitchen, on his back and bleeding. So, I guess I need to cut steel, huh? Johnny? Zoro shouted, pay close attention. T2 what? Johnny asked weakly. Zoro grinned like an animal. You'll have to help me teach Yosaku to cut steel. Luffy dodged Crocodile's fist, which was swirling with sand. He kicked out with his foot, which made contact thanks to the rain created by Nami up above. Crocodile gritted his teeth as he slid backwards. Goddamn weather witch, he hissed under his breath. Once I'm done with you, I'll kill her next. You won't lay a hand on her, Luffy shouted as the rain pelted him just as hard. The sounds of battle resounded around him, but he didn't care about any of that. All he needed to do was take down Crocodile. Gum pistol. He stretched his arm back, letting it snap back and fly for Crocodile, who batted it away with his claw. Did you think just because you have the rain you're stronger than me? Crocodile demanded. What a foolish plan. Desert Spada. With a slice from his hand the sand cut through the ground on its way to Luffy, who jumped out of the way. Of course I can beat you, he shouted back, now that the rain is constant. I don't have to worry about you just gee then you're an even bigger fool than I thought possible. Crocodile spat as he placed his hand on a nearby building. Ground death. Luffy watched with wide eyes as cracks spread from Crocodile's hand, spreading over the building onto the ground, and then nearby buildings. In the blink of an eye the entire block disintegrated into sand, and began to swirl above Crocodile's open palm. Ah crap, the captain swore under his breath. Rain does not cancel out my power. Crocodile shouted as the vortex of sand roared. Sables, pesado. The storm of sand flew from his hand and straight at Luffy, engulfing all the open space in front of him. Gritting his teeth, Luffy had no choice but to take the brunt of the impact. The sand exploded against him, sending him flying backwards into the nearest available building. He crashed through it and landed hard on the ground, groaning to himself. Even through his rubber body, the impact was painful. It took an extremely hard impact to hurt him, so he could tell. Crocodile still had a lot of gas in his tank. He sat up quickly, watching Crocodile stalk towards him slowly. The man looked livid, taking the cigar out of his mouth and tossing it aside. "Do you think taking me down solves anything?" the warlord demanded. "It solves nothing. Alubarna is doomed either way. My number agents will finish what I started even if you manage to defeat me. So what is your plan, Straw Hat? Do you really think you can beat me? All alone?" Luffy narrowed his eyes at Crocodile, noticing a blur speeding towards them from behind Crocodile. "Maybe," Luffy replied with a grin. "It's too bad I'm not alone, right Nami?" Crocodile had no time to react. He hadn't been prepared. Turning, Crocodile saw Pell speeding down the street, Nami on his back, just in time to receive the Kleem attack right to his jaw. Nami struck the warlord as hard as she could, and coupled with the speed from Pell, the warlord was sent flying away into another building. Pell quickly flew away, Nami's laugh echoing in the air around them. "That was for cutting my beautiful body, you stupid lizard freak," she shouted angrily, making Luffy laugh. "Nice one, Nami," he called after them, Pell continuing to circle the battlefield. Crocodile growled in frustration as he got up out of the hole he'd created, glowering at Luffy. "Never mind," he said, "I think I'll kill her now. You'll have to get through me first." Marianne wandered around the war-torn Alubarna, keeping to the shadows to avoid getting caught in a bigger conflict. She wasn't concerned about the regular millions, they were cannon fodder. She needed to find and sabotage the numbers agents. At this point they would know she had defected, so she couldn't act all innocent about it. She'd need to fight. "I don't care who I have to fight. I'm getting home, no matter what." Marianne gripped her paints closer to her chest in their little bag, slipping into a nearby building and out the other side into an empty side street. She jogged down it towards the outskirts of the city, hoping to find a vantage point of some kind. The rain Nami was creating only made the chaos worse, and it was hard to see where he was going. "Little sis Mari." Marianne made a face at this. Only two people talked to her like that. Looking over her shoulder, she saw Yosaku running up behind her. Chopper was by his side, galloping in his regular reindeer form. "I'm glad I found you, I need your help." "With what?" Marianne asked. "I'm looking for numbers agents." "So are we," Yosaku said as he reached her, panting. "We're looking for Mr. Fore and Ms. Merry Christmas. Do you know where they are?" "Why are you looking for them?" she asked curiously. Apparently, Nico Robin told Nijiko, Yosaku and Usopp the weaknesses of the numbers agents, Chopper said. "Is that true?" Marianne asked. Yosaku nodded, detailing his meeting with the other two and Robin below the palace. "She said Mr. Fore is really slow," he said, "as in slower than me or Johnny." Marianne didn't need that part. "Ms. Merry Christmas does all the thinking, and seeing as Chopper is the smartest of us, he should fight them." "I'm not that smart, dumbass," Chopper said bashfully, hiding his face from Yosaku. "And Chopper needs someone stout and strong to protect him," Yosaku said. "That felt to me. Seeing as we have no idea where Big Bros Zoro or Sanji are, you can help us." "You want my help?" Marianne asked. "Wouldn't be better off fighting with crewmates you have better synergy with?" "Well, I don't know where Johnny is either," Yosaku admitted, "and besides, we don't have time. She also told us about a bomb in the city. Big Bro Usopp said he would find and disarm it, but just in case we need to hurry." "A bomb?" Marianne demanded. Was Crocodile planning on slaughtering everyone in the city? "Probably," Chopper said. "He's a maniac. Will you help us, Marianne?" Marianne regarded the two quietly, still unsure of what to say. She wasn't particularly close to any of the crew, so she wasn't sure why they were asking for her help. Was she the first they had come across? Maybe. "I'll help," she finally said. "As for where they are, I have no idea. Did Robin give you an idea?" "Yeah," Yosaku said. "She said something about Ms. Merry Christmas being a mole or something, so she'd be where the ground was easiest to dig through." "Which means outside the city," Chopper translated. "Alubarna is built on a mound of rock. It'd be harder to dig through." "Good thing we're by the outskirts, then," she said. "Let's go." "Want a ride?" Chopper asked her. After a moment of thinking, Marianne took him up on that offer and climbed his back. Together the trio made it to the edge of the city, and looked out over the desert. "Where exactly would they be?" Yosaku asked. "They tunneled into the city," Marianne replied. "Even though the rock is harder than sand, I bet she helped. We should look around the tunnels." They didn't need to walk far to find a tunnel leading outside the city. jumping down into it. Yosaku drew his sword as they walked inside. Their footsteps began to echo across the rock as they walked, making her nervous. There was a high chance for an ambush in here. "So little sis," Yosaku said, "how did the fight in Rainbase go?" "Bad," Marianne replied, "we nearly died. Nico Robin saved us." She said as much, Yosaku confirmed, keeping his eyes ahead. "Don't worry. Big bro Luffy is the strongest man I've ever met. He'll take him out." "We'd better hope so," she replied. "With Nami and Pell helping him, it should be easy." "That the bird's name?" "Yeah, he's some big shot in Alabasta. Birdfruit." I see," Yosaku said. Silence fell between them, the only sound being Chopper's hooves rhythmically hitting the ground as he walked. "So, what will you do after we win?" "Little sis." Marianne was tempted to ask why he and Johnny assigned everyone these names, but she kept quiet. "Go home," she said. "It's been years since I was home." "Where's home for you, again?" Chopper asked. "I was born in the North Blue originally, but we moved to Water 7 a while ago. I want to return to my family." "And where's your ticket?" Yosaku asked, Marianne nodding. "That's cool. I hope they're still waiting for you." "They are," Marianne said quietly. "They'd better be." Before anyone could reply to her, the tunnel began to rumble around them. They paused and looked up in fright, seeing the roof begin to cave in. "Run!" Chopper shouted. Marianne held onto him as they ran for their lives, the tunnel caving in behind them. A few rocks hit both her and Chopper, causing her to hold herself close to the reindeer. They could see the light ahead of them, and Marianne closed her eyes in fear. Then she could feel the sun over her head again. Chopper had ran as hard as he could to get them out, throwing themselves out into the sand. Marianne spat out what got in her mouth, shakily getting to her hands and knees. "What the hell just happened?" she asked weakly. The tunnel caved in, Chopper hissed next to her, morphing back into his smaller form. "I thought we were dead." "That was insane," Yosaku said, panting heavily. "If I had to guess, that was probably Lookout." Marianne looked up, seeing Yosaku race past her in a blur and stand ahead of them. Before she could ask what he was doing, Yosaku drew his sword and swung it in a mighty horizontal arc. And with a defining crack it connected with something. He struggled against it for a moment or two, before letting out a roar and winning the struggle, forcing whatever it was back. Marianne got a good look as it flew away, seeing it was a cannonball. Yosaku had seen it coming and deflected it. "Yosaku!" Chopper cried as he got to his feet. "That was awesome." "Big bro Zoro taught me that," Yosaku said, "but we can gush later." "Someone's over there." Standing up and looking past Yosaku, Marianne saw a man and what looked like a dog standing across the sand. The man looked like a massive oval, with sandy blonde hair and big lips. The dog looked like a dachshund, but something was wrong with it. It almost looked like a gun. "Looks like some weirdo," Yosaku noted. "You dumbass," Marianne said. "That's obviously a number agent. What did Robin tell you to look for?" A bat, a dog-looking gun. Dumb as all hell." There was a moment of silence before Yosaku screeched in terror. "Aw, that's Mr. Fore." "We found him," Chopper said, "but where's Mr. Merry Christmas?" Marianne got a sinking feeling in her stomach. The tunnel had caved in, right? And they'd been looking for a mole woman. "Move," she shouted, shoving Chopper with all her might. Yosaku took her hint and flung himself further forward, just in time for the sand to erupt where they'd been standing. Marianne scrambled back to her feet, and saw that the aforementioned woman had appeared before them. The mole descriptor certainly fit, even without the devil fruit powers. M's Merry Christmas was pudgy like her partner, with mole features all over her face. She cackled manically. "I almost crushed you, stupid kids," she shouted gleefully. "We almost had you, almost." Mr. Fore started, speaking as slowly as humanly possible. "Shut up, Mr. Fore." The mole woman shouted angrily at him. "I do the talking, and you, Ms. Golden Week. What the hell are you doing palling around with these pirates? Betraying us, huh? Foolish idea?" "Betrayal is a harsh word for an orc that was barely allies to begin with," she said. "What you looked like until now. Still stupid, besides, now you'll die here. There's no way that you'll be able to beat us." "No wah. Shut up. What is this circus act I'm watching?" Yosaku asked. M's Merry Christmas whirled on him. You think you're smart, swordsman? She asked. All I see is brawn. Which is probably why you were able to deflect Mr. Fore attack. But don't you worry, Lisu isn't that weak. Lisu? Yosaku asked. Is that the dog? Marianne glanced at the dog by Mr. Fore, staring blankly ahead of them. It's a gun, M's Merry Christmas yelled. A gun that ate a devil fruit. Excuse me? Chopper demanded. That doesn't even make sense. Stop lying to me, fat woman. Yosaku shouted with an accusing finger pointed at the mole woman. Guns can't eat. You must be even stupider than your buddy over there. Right, because a dog could do this, M's Merry Christmas said. Lisu, fire. Marianne's eyes darted back to the dog, who looking like he was retching. After contorting its body, she watched in horror as a cannonball shot out of his mouth and towards Yosaku. Just like before, the swordsman readied himself and deflected the blow with a roar, sending it flying off to the side and exploding. That's horrifying, Marianne noted to herself. Yosaku, she called, taking her paintbrush from her bag and waggling it for the swordsman to see. She could help him out with her colored traps, so he needed to get over to her. He seemed to take note of her action, nodding at her. Prepping himself, Yosaku took off running towards her. Lisu, M's Merry Christmas shouted. The dog sneezed, and a cannonball flew directly for her. Marianne had no time to get out of the way, so she cowered in place. Another roar of strength sent the cannonball redirecting, and she looked up to find Yosaku standing before her, panting. Made it in time, he noted. Thank you, she breathed without thinking. Chopper, we need that plan. I'm working on it, Chopper replied. Let's stop playing around, M's Merry Christmas said. Mr. Fore, I'm going down. You know what to do. The man nodded slowly, and the woman disappeared beneath the sand again. Standing back to back with Yosaku, Marianne kept her eyes on the ground as Yosaku kept an eye on Mr. Fore. Chopper was off to the side, a paw on his chin as he thought. See her? Yosaku asked. No, she replied, not yet. Another sneeze from the dog, and Yosaku deflected another ball. I hate to be a downer, little sis, but my arms already feel like jelly. Marianne gulped at this. Their wall was already crumbling. They needed to do something now. I've got it, Chopper called, making her look to him. Guys, I figured it out, we need to. The sand beneath Chopper erupted, Ms. Merry Christmas pulling him down into her tunnels. Little bro. Yosaku shouted, about to move to help him. Lisu sneezed. Yosaku. Marianne cried. The dog had attacked when Yosaku looked away. The swordsman barely turned back in time to deflect the ball, but it didn't matter. Marianne was blown away as the cannonball exploded against the sword, Yosaku crying in pain. Scrambling to her feet, Marianne dug into her bag for paint as Yosaku struggled to his feet. Finding what she needed, she ran to the swordsman and ran her paintbrush over his exposed back. Color trap. Adrenaline red. As she finished the symbol, Yosaku sucked in a deep breath and exhaled in surprise. Whoa, he exclaimed, I feel like I could run a marathon. It won't last forever, Marianne warned him. We need to end this before then. If I use it too much, you might die when it wears off. Yosaku gave her an alarmed look, but nodded. He got to his feet, and faced Mr. Fore again. How's little bro Chopper looking? He asked, making Marianne turn to look. The reindeer had not reappeared. I don't know, she answered truthfully. He's still underground. We didn't hear his plan, Yosaku lamented, so I've got one. We rush Fatso over there. I fight him, you take out the dog gun, okay? Can you take him? She asked warily. Yosaku flashed her a smile. Of course I can, he said, trust me, little sis. Marianne wasn't so sure, but she gulped and nodded. Hop on, bending her knees. Marianne jumped and grabbed onto Yosaku's back. He grabbed her legs and she held his shoulders, and with a roar he charged Mr. Fore. The batter pointed at them, and Lisu fired again. Yosaku deflected it with a cry, still sprinting full force at him. Once they got close, Marianne vaulted off of him and ran for the dog, who watched her warily. They said it was a gun that ate a fruit, right? So it can't be that smart. Lisu watched her blankly as she pulled her paintbrush up, dabbling it into a vial from her bag. Color trap. Sadness blue. She lashed the dog's side in blue, and Lisu hung his head, sighing. Apparently, guns could be sad. Whatever, it didn't matter. Sparing a glance over her shoulder, she watched Yosaku and Mr. Fore exchange blows. Yosaku was strong, but it was clear Mr. Fore was overpowering him. Every swing of the bat sent Yosaku into a backpedal, nearly stumbling over the sand. Adrenaline red wasn't enough, he needed help. But how? How could she help him? Her gaze fell to Lassu, who was pawing at the sand sadly. An idea sparked in her head. With a heave, she picked the gun up and examined him. It's a gun, not a dog. So surely it still has a gun's features, right? Where's the trigger? I can shoot at Mr. Fore with it. She thought as hard as she could, trying to think of where a trigger would be on Lassu. It occurred to her, and a shiver went down her spine. No way, right? No way the trigger was there. Taking a deep breath, Marianne lifted the dog and inspected its underside. There, laying between its hind legs, was a gun trigger and trigger guard. It's a gun, she said to herself, no need for those parts, huh? Heaving the dog up, who was heavier than he looked, she aimed it at the fighting men. Yosaku, she cried, making him look over. Get away from him, now. His eyes widened as he reckoned with what he saw, and he dove away from Mr. Fore. The large man turned to look at her, and Marianne pulled the trigger. A cannonball exploded from Lassu's mouth, flying for Mr. Fore. Marianne grinned at her success. This was it, they won. A deafening crack caused her to jump. It sounded like a baseball being hit by a bat. Her eyes could not process it, but her mind did. Mr. Fore had redirected the ball back at her. Marianne! Yosaku cried out as the ball reached her feet, and an explosion engulfed her. Chopper was going to get claustrophobic if this went on any longer. He'd been pulled underground by Ms. Merry Christmas, and the two were fighting in her tunnel system. Most of Chopper's forms were too big to fit inside the tunnels, like Armpoint, so he forced to fight in his small form. He tried to get above ground multiple times, but the mole woman drove him back under. This was bad. Yosaku and Marianne were relying on him. Let go of me, he shouted as Ms. Merry Christmas held onto him. She cackled at his struggle. No can do, she said, not until Mr. Fore kills your friends. As if I'd allow that, Chopper yelled back. Growing desperate, he jabbed his hooves towards Ms. Merry Christmas' eyes. To his own surprise, he made contact. The woman howled as he hit her, releasing him to grab at her face. Now that he had time, he scrambled through the tunnels to get distance between them. Despite being disoriented, he still knew which was up, and eventually he was able to resurface. Just in time to hear an explosion and a scream. Turning, Chopper took in the battlefield. He saw Yosaku sitting on the sand a ways from him. Mr. Fore near him. Mr. Fore was looking elsewhere though, in a pose that made him look like he'd just batted a home run. Yosaku! He shouted, where's Marianne? Little bro! Yosaku shouted. She just took a cannonball explosion head on. We need to help her. Chopper turned to the dust cloud created by the explosion, and began to run to it. As the smoke cleared, he saw Mbak, the dog thing laying on its side nearby. Marianne! He shouted, transforming into his strong point to gently pick her up. Are you okay? Marianne coughed, weakly opening one eye. Chopper? She asked. Am I dead? No, not yet. And don't you dare die. Damn it, we need a doctor. Why you're the doctor? Oh, right. She coughed again and moved her arm around weakly. Where are my paints? She asked. G, get me my bag. Looking around, Chopper saw her bag resting nearby in the sand. He picked it up, but he didn't like the look of it. Namely, the paints leaking out of it. The explosion burst their containers, he told her as Yosaku fought off Mr. Fore. They're ruined. Damn. Marianne noted. What was your plan, Chopper? You said you had one. Plan? Chopper asked. Oh yeah, listen, we need to. Where is that stupid raccoon? M's Merry Christmas shouted, bursting out of the sand. I'll kill him. Her eyes looked pretty bad, making Chopper gulp. We need to take her out first, he said, but you were a part of that plan, and your paint is ruined. Just tell me what the plan was, Marianne insisted, forcing herself to her knees. Well, you went through all the trouble of telling us your paints and what they did, and I memorized them and… You did? Marianne asked, surprised. Chopper nodded. Of course. Anyway, you told me about Betrayal Black, And I figured if we could get that on the dog or Mr. Fore, it'd be easy. I wasn't there, but it worked on Luffy and… They're all pretty dumb, Marianne finished. It won't work on the dog. Mr. Fore hits the cannonballs and redirects them. We need to get him directly. And we need to get close for that. There you are, M's Merry Christmas shouted. Eyes clearer now. I'll kill you, you stupid raccoon. Do you people not know what reindeer are? Chopper shouted angrily, turning to her angrily. Marianne. Listen, if you can, please get Mr. Fore with Betrayal Black. We can win with that. Oh okay, Marianne replied. I'm sure I can scavenge some black paint. Be careful, Chopper. You too. Marianne watched Chopper run after Ms. Merry Christmas, before looking back at the battle between Yosaku and Mr. Fore. The adrenaline red was helping him keep up, but it was obviously waning. Mr. Fore was nearly beating him into the sand, and it wasn't going to take him much longer. Scrambling, she opened her bag and looked at the mess of colors inside, not able to see any black. It would be dangerous to accidentally use another color on him as well, which she needed to avoid. Gritting her teeth, she reached inside and tried her best to locate a vial that hadn't been shattered in the explosion. She tossed broken glass over her shoulder, indifferent to the paint that splashed her cheek. It had to be in here, somewhere, right? Where was it? Mr. Fore, you big dope, M's Merry Christmas shouted. Golden Week is doing something, stop her. Marianne glanced up, and saw that Mr. Fore was glaring at her. Yosaku was on one knee, holding up his blade with his forearm as he blocked the metal bat. It was fine. Yosaku could hold him off until she found the paint she needed. Until she heard a sneeze. Looking off to the side, Marianne's stomach dropped as she saw Lissu getting to his feet. The gun was aimed at Mr. Fore. She watched as Mr. Fore kicked Yosaku out of the way, and readied his stance. She gulped weakly. This was bad. Fire, Mutt, M's Merry Christmas shouted. Lissu did as ordered, shooting a cannonball at Mr. Fore. The man readied his swing, arcing the bat back. Marianne flinched in preparation, unable to look death in the eyes. She heard the bat hit the cannonball. She heard the wind change as the explosive flew to her. She heard the explosion, but it never hit her. Confused, Marianne opened her eyes and looked forward. She gasped as she did. Standing before her, in tattered and bloodied clothes, was Yosaku. He'd stood in the way of the cannonball, taking the explosion head-on. He was still in a fighting stance, sword in his hands, but he was unsteady on his feet. Adrenaline red had surely worn off, leaving him even more exhausted. Yosaku! She cried as the swordsman stumbled. Are you okay? Hey, I'm fine, the man replied, looking over his shoulder at her. I couldn't let him hurt ya. That could have killed you. Why did you do that? 'Cause big bro Luffy told me and Johnny to keep an eye on ya, he replied, turning back to Mr. Fore. Can't do that if I let you die, right? Her eyes widened at this, barely able to process his words. But, she tried weakly, unable to come up with the words. But I'm not even your crew member. Yosaku steadied himself and grunted. I followed Big Bro Luffy because I wanted to help protect people, Yosaku said. If I can't even keep my ally from being hurt, I would lose my pride not only as a swordsman, but as a man. He let out a roar from his lips. Come and get me, you big stupid ape. He roared as Mr. Fore. I won't let you hurt little sis Mari. Marianne watched in shock as Yosaku rushed Mr. Fore, spinning and slamming his blade into his bat. Mr. Fore went on the offensive, swinging fast as Yosaku, who parried what he could and took what he couldn't. And yet, no matter how many hits he took and how close he came to falling, he didn't. But it wasn't enough. Yosaku was going to lose if she didn't do something. But what could she do? Growling, she looked over to find Chopper and Ms. Merry Christmas still brawling in the sand. The animal duo seemed evenly matched, with Chopper's strength matched by Christmas' strategy. She needed her paint, but it was all gone. She stuck her hand deep in the bag, searching for any unopened vials. Sadly, it was all in vain. They had all shattered when she'd been hit. This was over, she was helpless. As Marianne stared at the multicolored bag before her, her eyes widened. She was out of black, but not other colors. It might be a little raggedy, but she could mix these colors before her. Acting quickly, she searched through the paints until she found a spill of red, blue and yellow that was somewhat separated from the rest. Ripping her shirt at her midsection, She dabbed it in the paint and mixed it rapidly. Within seconds the colors began to turn black. As she worked, she mumbled to herself to make sure she had the right colors. Red of aggression. Yellow of deceit. Blue of loyalty. God, I hope this works. Finally, Marianne lifted her swab of betrayal black and stared at it. She had her paint, but how would she hit Mr. Fore? He was too far away, and he was fighting Yosaku. Her eyes landed on Lassu, who was still standing nearby. Her eyes hardened. "Come here, you mutt," she shouted, launching herself towards him. The gun was too stupid to dodge, and she had him in her grasp. Trying to avoid any guilt at what she was doing by reminding herself it was a gun, Marianne shoved her swab of black down the dog's throat and picked it up, aiming at Mr. Fore. "Yosaku," she cried, "get out of the way, you have to trust me." "I already did, little sis," the swordsman cried back. As Mr. Fore swung his bat, Yosaku dodged under it and slashed the mont's ankle as he rolled away. Mr. Fore fell to his knees, and Marianne squeezed the trigger. Lassu sneezed, and the swab of betrayal black was ejected from the gun. It flew straight and true, hitting Mr. Fore square on the chest. The man looked confused by the paint on his shirt, touching it with his fingers. "Wah?" he asked. "Mr. Fore's Merry Christmas," shouted. Marianne turned to see the mole woman was being held down by Chopper. "Hurry up and defeat them. I can't fight this buff raccoon on my own." Mr. Fore blinked at her slowly, and Marianne gulped. This was it. "Oakai," Mr. Fore said. He lumbered to his feet, and gestured at Lassu. Marianne trembled as the dog gun shot out a cannonball for the man. "Marianne, move!" Yosaku shouted. Marianne grinned. "Chopper," she shouted, "get out of the way." The reindeer looked confused, and launched himself away from Ms. Merry Christmas. Laughing triumphantly, the mole woman jumped to her feet. As she did so, Mr. Fore hit the cannonball with his bat. And it spiraled towards Ms. Merry Christmas. "Huh?" Marianne heard, right before the cannonball exploded. Ms. Merry Christmas was sent flying backwards, right in the direction Chopper had jumped away to. Seizing the opportunity, Chopper balled his fist and slammed it into the side of the mole woman's head, sending her straight into the sand. As the sand settled, she didn't get up again, staying face down where she lay. Chopper grinned. "Marianne, you did it," he exclaimed happily. "We got her." Marianne grinned at this. "No problem," she wheezed, collapsing to her knees. She looked over to Mr. Fore, who was standing around idly. "Yosaku, could you deal with that?" Nodding, Yosaku walked up behind the massive man, lifting his sword over his head. Sword of the Earth. Tectonic shift. Bonk. She flinched as Yosaku slammed the flat side of his blade down on Mr. Fore's head with all his might, the sound of steel on bone reverberating through the empty dunes. Mr. Fore collapsed in a heap, blood dripping out of his nose. Yosaku snorted. "Got him," he exclaimed, before falling backwards onto his back. "Yosaku!" Chopper shouted, running to his side. "Don't go to sleep. You might have a concussion. Where's a doctor?" "It's you," Yosaku mumbled from the sand. "Oh, yeah." Marianne chuckled at this as she looked up at the sky. She hoped the others were doing well, but she didn't have the energy to go and find out. She was exhausted. Falling back, she continued to stare at the sky. She wondered if she'd finally be able to go home, to see her family again. She hoped so. 3-sword style. Bull charge. Mr. One blocked Zoro's attack with his forearms, looking unimpressed. Johnny appeared over his head, blade over his head. Sword of the Sea. Cascading slash. He brought the blade down on the mont's head, but Mr. One's scalp grew a blade and blocked the attack, sending Johnny off balance and onto the ground. Making sure his apprentice had tumbled out of the way, Zoro backed up and repositioned his blades, gritting his teeth. 3-sword style. Dragon Twister. The tornado roared towards Mr. One, who steadied himself and took the attack head-on. While the tornado didn't slash him, Zoro grinned when he saw it forcing the man backwards. That could work. Crashing Tide. Johnny slammed his blade into Mr. One's side, which was obviously blocked. Zoro rushed in as his apprentice kept him busy. Tiger Hunting. Zoro brought his blades up and brought them down over Mr. One's neck, and once again he was parried away. "How many times do we have to go over this?" Mr. One asked as the winds faded, You can't defeat me, not with these weak attacks. I'm getting around to it, Zoro replied. Johnny, you doing okay? Jay just fine, big bro. Johnny replied weakly, blood still dripping from his chest. My chest hurts, though. Just stop bleeding. Yes sir. Mr. One watched this interaction quietly, sighing deeply. It's about time we get this over with, he said. I still have a lot of royal guards to deal with. Raising his right arm, Mr. One's forearm was covered in swirling blades. Zoro watched as they began to turn rapidly, becoming a blur of motion. Spiraling blades. Mr. One burst towards him, and Zoro blocked the attack. As he did, sparks flew from their connected blades. The motion of the blades bore into him, making it even harder to block. What is with this guy? Is he a miner or something? Sword of the Sea. Rippling tide. Mr. One blocked Johnny's jab with ease with his open palm, now both of them struggling against him. You deserve this, Mr. One noted. It was foolish to fight against a warlord of the sea. Impact slash. The fingers of the hand blocking Johnny's grew blades, and Mr. One raised a leg to kick him backwards. As Johnny came to fight again, Mr. One's hand came into contact with his blade, sending Johnny flying backwards into a nearby building. As he hit it, slashes carved into the stone and sliced the building apart, debris falling into the street. Johnny, Zoro called through the sword in his mouth. He had no time to check on his apprentice, as Mr. One came after him next. The spiraling blades pushed him backwards, and before he could recover he was slashed on the leg by the agent's foot. As he fell forwards, the spiraling blades slashed his chest open and slammed him backwards into a pillar. He collapsed into it, bleeding and groaning, watching Mr. One stand over him. Would you rather die first? The assassin demanded, or should I let you watch me finish your friend over there? Do you have a preference? Zoro groaned in response, trying to come up with any kind of plan. Was there really anything he could do? This guy countered him completely, but there had to be something. Hey, you big asshole! Zoro's eyes snapped open when he heard someone fling an insult at Mr. One, turning his head. Johnny was standing, bleeding, but standing. Blood pooled at his feet from the cuts marring his upper body, his white linen shirt soaked red. The swordsman lifted his head, and Zoro saw that Johnny's glasses had cracked, revealing his eyes. They were electric blue. Johnny grabbed the frames and threw them from his face, stomping on them angrily. You want to kill Big Bro Zoro? He demanded as he raised his sword. You kill me first? Johnny, don't be stupid, Zoro shouted angrily. You aren't strong enough. I can hold him off until you get up, Johnny replied. Isn't that what a student should do for his teacher? Don't be an idiot, he's your teacher? Mr. One asked. No wonder you're so weak. I'll finish you off cleanly. You're owed that much for your courage. Zoro stumbled and tripped on his own blood when he tried to stand, watching Mr. One saunter towards Johnny. The swordsman clenched his teeth, watching and waiting. And the battle began again. Mr. One swung his arm at Johnny, who blocked it as it grew a blade. Raising his foot, Johnny kicked the agent in the stomach and twirled his blade, advancing as Mr. One recovered. Zoro tried to get up again, failing once more. He growled into the ground, trying his hardest to get up. He needed to help Johnny. Looking up, Zoro's eyes widened. Johnny was ducking and dodging Mr. One's attacks, deflecting him like he was an insect. His student's movements were so fluid it was as though his bones had turned to jelly. Mr. One swung. Johnny dodged and counter-attacked. He used the momentum from the attack to duck under the next attack, striking at Mr. One's back. It looked as though the blade had become an extension of Johnny's arm, moving and responding as fluidly as one's fingers would. He had no time to admire the work. He needed a plan. What could he do to defeat Mr. One? As he watched Johnny fight, Zoro was reminded of an old saying his teacher had taught him. A blade that cuts only what the swordsman wants. Johnny felt like he could see everything so clearly. He had only intended to buy Zoro a few seconds, but now he danced around Mr. One as though he was a child. He didn't know what it was, or what had happened, but he felt so awake. He could sense Mr. One's movements, see the muscles tense when he was going to attack. Was this what it was like to be a true swordsman? To feel the heat and life of the battle? It was incredible. Mr. One backed up, huffing with a small smirk. I underestimated you, he said. You move quite well. Johnny offered him no response, keeping his eyes on his. "You broke my sunglasses, asshole," he finally remarked. "Pay for replacements." "Good," Mr. One said. "Looking your opponent in the eye is the least you can do." The rain punctuated the swordsmen circling one another, eyes locked. Johnny's mind felt vacant. He thought of no strategy, focused only on staying alive. He could barely even feel his wounds. Mr. One backed up, readying his hand. His fingers themselves transformed into blades, and began to whirl like a machine. S blocked the swirling attack aimed at his stomach, which would have disemboweled him had it landed. Clenching his jaw, Johnny roared angrily. Sword of the Sea. Inverse waterfall. Transferring his body weight, he ducked underneath the clawed attack and inside Mr. One's guard. Bringing his might back up, the tip of Tsutomakura connected with Mr. One's chin. The attack was blocked, but the impact still lifted the man off his feet and into the air. Johnny twirled his blade, aiming upwards. Rippling tide. Angling his blade, Johnny jabbed it upwards towards the mon's stomach. The attack, obviously, was blocked by his stomach becoming a blade. However, his stomach was pressured more than before. Johnny could see his attack had actually gotten through. Even if only a little, he was getting better. Johnny, when he looked back on the fight later, Johnny didn't remember looking when his name was called. He could see Zoro in his mind, readying his stance. He remembered knowing he needed to get out of the way, because his teacher was about to do something crazy. But for the life of him, he didn't remember looking towards him. Well, surely had to have, right? After all, he saw it. He saw Zoro readying his stance, a single blade at his side. He saw his teacher had tied his infamous bandana around his head, obscuring his eyes. It was all so vivid in his head, so he knew he had to have looked. And yet, he couldn't recall it. All he recalled was rolling out of the way as best he could. Mr. One hit the ground, just in time to turn and see Zoro burst towards him. One sword style. Lion song. Johnny didn't see the impact, but he saw the outcome. Zoro was standing behind Mr. One now, resheathing his blade. Mr. One was as still as a mountain, unmoving. Before blood spurted from his chest, and he fell. Johnny watched, eyes wide, as Mr. One collapsed onto his chest. He didn't move again, which let relief spread through his limbs. "I think you did it, big bro," he exclaimed happily as the rain poured down on them. Zoro panted hard and sheathed his sword. "I couldn't have done it if you hadn't bought me time, Johnny," he replied. "I've never seen you move like that. It was impressive." "It was nothing compared to you," Johnny replied as he limped over, clutching his chest. "You cut steel. How did you?" Mr. One burst up from the ground, forearms shiny and sharp. Zoro wasn't ready, his blades were sheathed. Tsutomakura wasn't. Johnny didn't remember the dash forward. He didn't remember plunging his blade into Mr. One's abdomen, and yet, he found himself in that exact situation. Tsutomakura impaling Mr. One from behind. He hadn't struck anywhere fatal, but it was enough to stop the agent dead in his tracks and allow Zoro to back up. Mr. One was frozen in place from the attack, barely making a sound. Grunting, Johnny took the blade out, blood spurting onto the wet ground. Mr. One looked down at his stomach, and then over his shoulder at Johnny. "Seems your student is more promising than I gave him credit for," he noted, falling down once more. Johnny regarded him quietly, kicking his side to make sure he wouldn't get up again. "That was close," he remarked. Zoro let out a wheeze-like laugh, collapsing to sit on the ground. "Well," he said, "unless Yosaku's been helping out, I dare say you're the stronger apprentice now, Johnny. Good work." Johnny smiled at this. "Thanks big bro," he said, "it means a lot, coming from you." Johnny managed to get the words out before he blacked out, collapsing onto the ground as the rain pelted his face. Gum gum bullet. Barjan. Luffy was forced to dodge, ducking underneath the horizontal swipe crocodile attacked with. He didn't know what it did, but he didn't want to get hit by it. Using his momentum, he got back to his feet, and aimed, launching his stretched arm. Crocodile sidestepped his attack, glaring at him. First, the warlord said, "I'm going to kill you and that weather girl. Then, I'll find your allies and kill all of them. And then, I'll kill the princess in front of everyone. This country is mine, Straw Hat." "You'll have to get through me first," Luffy replied. Gum Gum Gatling. He threw a flurry of fists. many of which connected as Crocodile dodged nearby to a wall with an overreach, which protected him from the rain. Luffy thought quickly, launching an attack at the overhang and destroying it. This doused Crocodile with more water, making him growl. "Do you think a shower is all it takes to beat me?" he roared. "Desert Spada?" The slash carved up the street they were fighting on, Luffy bending out of the way. As he did, Crocodile manipulated the sand, making it grab Luffy around the neck. He was pulled towards the warlord, who ducked underneath an underpass and grabbed him around the neck. "Let go of me, Croc," Luffy demanded. He launched a kick, but it phased through Crocodile with ease. Being out of the rain had let him dry off with his power. "Not so easy when I'm dry, huh?" Crocodile demanded, tightening his grip on Luffy's neck. "I'm doing you a favor when you think a little, Straw Hat. You and your crew would get massacred further in the Grand Line. Dying here saves you the trouble of getting too far. Must be easy to talk shit when you fight dirty, huh?" Luffy demanded. "How about you turn off the invincibility and fight me fairly?" "Fight fair?" Crocodile demanded, laughing. "What kind of pirate are you? We don't fight fair. Do you think your enemies further along will either use everything you have to create an advantage, Straw Hat? You don't even know hockey. How could you expect to beat a logia?" "Hockey?" Luffy asked. "What the hell is that? Does it matter?" Crocodile demanded. "Without it, you'll never beat other logia users. Let this be the last lesson you learn, boy. Fighting fairly is overrated." Crocodile reared back his claw, preparing to strike. Gritting his teeth, Luffy kicked upwards and destroyed the roof over their heads, once again creating an opening for the rain. "Thanks for the lesson," Luffy spat as he freed himself from Crocodile by kicking him again. "I'll keep that in mind when I fight those enemies further along. After I'm done sweeping your sand off the streets of Alubarna." Keep dreaming. Sanji had already dealt with a fair share of Baroque Works agents, and it was starting to annoy him that he hadn't found anyone significant yet. Had he not caused enough chaos yet? That was unacceptable. "Hey!" Sanji looked over his shoulder to see Zoro running up to him. "What is it, Marimo?" he demanded. This was just getting worse and worse, wasn't it? "We need to go back the others up," Zoro said. "I saw Vivi getting taken away by Crocodile." "What?" Sanji demanded. "And you watched it happen, did you, useless Marimo?" "I was too far away to help, but we have to catch up to him," Zoro said. "I saw him leaving the city. Let's go." Zoro moved past him, but Sanji stayed where he was. Asking for help? Getting him outside the city? Not trying to help Vivi? Gritting his teeth, Sanji turned and delivered a vicious roundhouse kick to the back of Zoro's head. The man cried out in surprise and went tumbling forward, hitting a nearby building. "So it's you, huh?" Sanji asked. "The man who denied me a look at Nami Swan's body." "Gah!" Zoro shouted as he stood up. "How did you see through me so easily?" The man grabbed his face, and he instantaneously morphed back into Mr. 2, Bon Clay. "You picked the wrong one to try and fool me with," Sanji replied as he puffed on his cigarette. "That useless swordsman would never ask me for help." Mr. 2 grit his teeth and stood up, cracking his neck. "I don't need to fool you to take you down," he shouted. "My Okama Kenpo will destroy you thoroughly." Sanji regarded his opponent quietly. "Of course I get the weird one," he hissed to himself. Usopp wanted to run so far away, but he couldn't. He had a job to do. One that had been entrusted to him. He held in a yelp as a nearby building exploded at the ground level, debris flying everywhere. Thinking quickly, he ducked into a nearby alley and hid behind a crate as men ran by. He didn't bother trying to figure out if they were on his side or not. He was busy. He had a job to do. Why had he volunteered for this, exactly? Back in the underground tunnel when Nijiko, Yosaku and himself confronted Nico Robin, she'd given them a ton of info. Including the location of a bomb. According to her, the bomb had been placed as a fail-safe to wipe Alubarna away if the plan failed. Usopp had been quick to volunteer for the job of defusing it, given he figured it would be the least dangerous job. That was, of course, until Robin mentioned that 2 agents were guarding the bomb. He'd begged Nijiko to go with him, but it hadn't worked out. "If you want, we can switch. I bet you could snipe Miss Double Finger from far enough away to not even fight." Speaking of which, the central plaza where the bomb is has an excellent view of the city, Robin had pointed out. "You could help out your friends after defusing the bomb." Besides, Nijiko said, only you can defuse a bomb on this crew anyway. Last thing I want is Yosaku defusing it. Exactly, Yosaku agreed. I'm teaching everyone what I know after this, Usopp hissed to himself, and he slunk down the alleyway towards the central plaza. So they can do it while I stay safe. Peeking out from where he was hiding, Usopp took note of where he was in comparison to the clock tower. The tower in question was in the central plaza of the city, the obvious perfect place to destroy everything. So far he'd managed to get by without getting into a fight, but the tower had no cover to approach from. That sucked. Didn't help that a lot of fighting was going on there too. God, why did he sign up for this? Peeking out onto the street, Usopp noted that everyone he saw was far enough away for him to get to the next alley. He swallowed hard and looked around, getting ready to make a break for it. Usopp! He shrieked in surprise and dove back into the alley, reaching for his gun. Usopp, it's me. Relax. Making a face, Usopp turned around to see that he didn't need to fear the person. Vivi sat before him on Karu's back, smiling at him. Vivi, he exclaimed, you scared the hell out of me. Sorry, she said. What are you doing back here? Last I saw you were in the palace. Well, it's a little complicated, he said. He quickly explained to her what had taken place in the underground tunnels, the princess paying close attention. So that's how it is, she said, frowning. Damn crocodile. He has to be insane. Glad we sorted that out. Yeah, Usopp agreed. Well, hop on, Vivi said, pulling on Karu's reins, forcing the duck to turn. Let's go and defuse the bomb. Glad to not be alone. Usopp hopped on behind her and held on as the duck took off. Karu was certainly faster than running through the back alleys, and the trio beelined towards the central plaza. Anything we need to be careful of? Vivi asked as Karu took a hard turn. Robin said 2 agents were guarding it. Usopp replied over the chaos around them. She said that close range was the best way to take them out. Do you have a way to fight at close range? Vivi asked. Usopp gulped and reached into his cloak, pulling out a flintlock. Nijiko gave me her extra pistol, he said, seeing as I need a way to fight up close. Let's hope you're as good of a shot up close as you are far away, she said. Riding towards the plaza only took them a few more minutes, and they soon arrived. Just as he expected, the plaza was full of people fighting. An explosion sounded nearby, throwing debris into their path as well. What should we do? He asked weakly. What do you mean? Vivi asked. We run. Karu, let's go. Usopp had no time to argue with her before the duck took off again, sprinting full tilt through the plaza. He ducked and dodged every single time a person got close to them, and shrieked in Vivi's ear more than a couple times. Karu's speed was unstoppable, however, and soon they arrived at the base of the sandstone clock tower. Vivi made for the doorway on the side, barging through it with her shoulder. Come on, she said to him as he joined her, we need to climb these stairs. Stairs? Usopp asked, looking up the tower. A staircase spiraled up to the top, making him gulp. As he walked in the door, Vivi looked to Karu with a frown. Karu, get where it's safe, she said, there's no enough room here for you. The duck looked irritated and quacked at them. Usopp wished Chopper was here with them. Don't talk back to me, Vivi said, get going. Find Chaka, help him. Karu still looked mad, but he saluted to Vivi and took off, leaving nothing but a cloud of dust behind him. Vivi shut the door and walked past Usopp to the first stair, looking back at him. Ready? She asked. He gulped and nodded. The two began to ascend the stairs as quickly as they could, huffing from the exertion rather quickly. Vivi, he managed to splutter out, what do we do about the agents? Vivi clicked her teeth at this. I was busy running up the stairs, she said, and they'll have the advantage on us, too. Any ideas? It was hard for Usopp to think and run, but he soon concocted a plan. He reached into his bag of supplies, shoving things out of his way until he found what he wanted. We could use these, he said, hoisting up his prize. Some smoke bombs I made. Vivi smiled back at him. Perfect, she said, follow my lead. The pair continued running up the stairwell, Usopp trying not to die on the way up. Soon they got close to the top, and Vivi slowed her pace. Usopp did as she did, the pair tiptoeing closer to the door that led to the clock's internals. Once they reached it, Usopp could distinctly hear laughing inside. Look at those morons fight. Amon's voice said, not knowing it's all in vain. We should get ready to flee soon. A woman agreed as Vivi grabbed the door handle and turned to him, nodding her head. Usopp said nothing as he grabbed his bombs. Using her free hand, Vivi held up 3 fingers and began to count down. Usopp tensed. Once she lowered her last finger, Vivi flung open the door with all her might, and Usopp tossed the bombs inside. They exploded upon impact, throwing up a smokescreen so thick Usopp could knee. What the hell is this? The Mont's voice asked from inside, through the coughing. Did something go wrong? Check the bomb. Check the bomb. Vivi readied her peacock spinners, nodding at Usopp again. He gulped, gripping his rifle tightly. The princess charged inside, Usopp lagging behind her. He lost sight of her as soon as they got inside, but he heard the unfamiliar voices cry out in surprise. Gritting his teeth, he advanced further inside and looked around. He saw a little better now, but not enough to help if Vivi needed it. Vivi, he called weakly. I'm fine, the princess replied somewhere off to his right. We caught them off guard. The smoke began to clear thanks to the open door, and Usopp got a better look at the results of their attack. Both agents lay face down on the ground, blood pooling from their chests and bruises on their face. Vivi had dealt decisive blows immediately. Good work, he said. Sorry, I should have done more. You'll do more than enough when you defuse this bomb, Vivi replied, gesturing to their left. Usopp looked, and was caught off guard when he realized what he saw seeing. A cannon? He asked. What lay before them was a massive cannon, which he could only presume was to fire the bomb in question. Well, this is easy enough to defuse it and off itself. He wandered behind it and quickly located the mechanism that would light the fuse, and disarmed it. What about the bomb? Vivi asked. Usopp made a face at the back hatch of the cannon. Come help me with this, he said. Vivi did so, and together they pried open the massive hatch, revealing a black cannonball inside. Can we get it out? Vivi inquired. Usopp shuddered at the idea, his mind working quickly. It's a heavy cannonball, he said, judging its weight. But the floor here is brick, so it should hold. Are we betting on it not to explode? Vivi asked weakly. Usopp gulped as he regarded it. Are we? He repeated. The pair stared at each other quietly, trying to figure out their next course of action. If we don't, we may die anyway, Vivi finally said. Crocodile wouldn't leave its detonation to a cannon that could easily malfunction. Get it out. Usopp hated that he agreed with her. Well, he said, pray to your gods and help me pull it out onto the floor. Nodding, Vivi joined him next to the hatch, and the pair began to rustle the cannonball out slowly. The battle in Alubarna hadn't begun to slow down yet, and that unnerved Nezuko. She had hoped that she might see some sign of her allies defeating agents, but no such luck. Even though she'd been wandering around for quite some time, she hadn't happened upon any of her friends. That worried her, but she didn't have time to think. She needed to focus on the battle ahead. If they were able to trust what Nico Robin had told them, then apparently Ms. Doublefinger should have been deployed in this direction. She hadn't spotted the woman yet, but from what Robin had said she'd be easy to spot. Ms. Doublefinger should be easy to find, she'd said. She's got a mess of blue hair on her head, and she's rather tall for a woman. Not to mention the way she walks. Very odd, if you ask me. But beware her spike fruit. She can grow spikes out of any part of her body, which makes close-range combat a death sentence. You use guns, right? Keep your distance from her. She can't do much with her abilities far away from you. That all made sense to her, but it made her worriedly fumble with her ammo reserves tied to her belt. She'd practiced to identify her special ammo by touch, which let her tell what she was about to use quicker. Still, she was sure a few shots wouldn't be enough to take down this woman. After all, she was one of the strongest agents. Pulling the revolver she'd stolen from Mr. 5 out of its holster, she checked the chamber quietly. Loaded with explosive rounds. Ironic given its previous user. Let's just hope she doesn't give me too much trouble. Screams of pain cut Nezuko out of her worrisome thoughts, and she ducked into the nearest alleyway to hide herself. She waited for a few moments, but no one seemed to find her. More screams echoed nearby, and they sounded horrific. She was tempted to run the opposite way, but she had someone to look for. Someone who may very well have been causing those screams. Steeling herself, Najiko turned and followed the sound as best she could. It didn't take her long to hear the screams even closer by her, and she gulped. What the hell was she even doing? There was no way she could take down a trained fighter, she was barely one herself. Ignoring her better senses, she peeked around the corner to see what was happening. Just her luck, she'd found the woman she was looking for. M's double finger was surrounded by bodies of soldiers and rebels alike, all of them with varying degrees of wounds caused by punctures. Looking further, she saw the woman responsible. She had RO give Robin credit. The description of the woman was spot on. Ms. Doublefinger was a tall woman, with a curvaceous figure and curly blue hair. She currently had a soldier in her hand, her thumb extended to a point and puncturing the man through the chest. She could see from how the woman was holding him that he was dead already. Looked like Robin was right. Fumbling a little, Najiko reached for her pistol and aimed it at the woman. No point in revealing myself, she noted quietly, lining up the iron sights with the woman's upper body. Bang! The gun expelled its first shot, flying true. It exploded against the woman, and a cry of pain echoed down the street back towards her. She grinned and ducked back behind the corner, cocking the hammer back again to swap chambers. Who's there? Ms. Doublefinger shouted. Seems she wasn't dead. Show yourself, before I kill you, right, because that was going to make her show herself. As quietly as she could, Najiko began to creep away from the street, intent on switching her position to attack from the shadows again. Slinking behind the building, she moved quickly towards the other end of the alley so she could peek out again. Ah, there's the little ray you shot me, a voice said, startling her. Najiko aimed down and looked around, but couldn't see the woman in question. Where was she? How did she know? Where are you? She demanded, shaking as she tried to find her. Look up, dumbass, Ms. Doublefinger replied. Najiko's eyes widened and looked up, just in time to see the agent detaching the spikes in her feet from the building wall, dropping down on top of her. She moved to aim her gun, but the agent was faster. She reached towards her, and her fingers extended into spikes quickly. Najiko dodged as quickly as she could, but she wasn't fast enough. The spikes cut through her arms and legs as she moved, slicing her open as they caught her skin. The feeling of blood trickling down her body sent her adrenaline through the roof, allowing her to scramble back up quickly. She aimed her gun at M's Doublefinger, but she was hesitant to shoot. The explosive rounds used at such close proximity was a bad idea. Don't move, she warned regardless. Or what? Ms. Doublefinger demanded, putting her hand on her hip. You'll shoot me, please, darling. I'm not scared of you. But I can tell you're scared of me. Najiko grit her teeth and steeled her nerves, finger begging her to pull the trigger. Want to get shot again? She demanded weakly. Want to get hit by the blowback from that explosion? The agent countered, making Najiko's stomach drop. Her buff was being called. Please, darling. You won't do that. We'll both get hit, and I can guarantee one of us walks away more whole than the other. Damn, now what was she going to do? Her flintlocks were still holstered at her sides, but she wasn't going to reach them in time before she got skewered. She needed to get space between alleys had been her hope of that, but that was gone now. But she needed a plan. Deciding she'd rather die fighting than standing around, Najiko freed her right hand from the revolver and reached for one of the flintlocks. Double fingers, well, fingers stretched quickly into points to stab her. She warped her body awkwardly to avoid them as she drew, ready to aim the gun right at the woman's head. Until her arm was punctured. Najiko cried out in pain and looked, surprised to see a spike splintering off from her finger into her arm. When she tried to move, it was surprisingly sturdy. I'd hate to ruin such a pretty body, Ms. Doublefinger said, but I'm guessing you're one of the Straw Hats. That means you have to die. Funny, Najiko said. I was thinking the same thing about you. Quick as she could, Najiko holstered her revolver behind her back and reached into her ammo pouch, and found what she wanted based on the texture. Pulling out, she lobbed it at the woman's face, who looked surprised. Smoke exploded right in the agent's face, causing her to retract her spikes and cough. Najiko took this opportunity to escape, peeling out of the alley and back into the street. If the alley was a no-go, the street was her best bet. She needed the distance. And if worst came to worst, she had a final card to play. Najiko pulled out both of her flintlocks, ready. Her opponent revealed herself by jumping to the rooftop nearby, watching her angrily. "You've got more fight than I expected," she said. "I'll make sure to end you quickly." "You're free to try," Nijiko shouted, taking aim. She unleashed a flurry of bullets, specifically the smaller, faster rounds. The munitions flew at M's double finger, who was forced to dodge down onto the street away from the bullets. Nijiko adjusted her aim and kept firing, keeping well in mind that the flintlocks could only hold a group of 10 smaller rounds each before the cartridge was empty. Once she counted 20 bullets had been fired, Nijiko expelled the cartridges from the guns on the move, making Ms. Doublefinger laugh. A firearm's biggest weakness, she called as Nijiko ran, the need to reload. She wasn't looking, and as such Nijiko had no idea where the spikes were going to hit her. All she knew was that they were coming. She dodged at will, falling to the ground and hoping she'd dodged the worst of it. As she forced more rounds into the guns, she felt a searing pain in her thigh. She grit her teeth as the spike went all the way to the bone, sending a shockwave of pain through her body. Her brain went into overdrive, warning her of the pain, some of the worst she'd ever experienced, but she fought through it and loaded her gun all the same. She aimed it at M's double finger and fired. She had loaded quick-shot rounds, which flew faster due to their size. The agents had no time to retract her spikes all the way before dodging, causing her to roll away with a massive spike still extended. Nijiko fumbled in her pouch for a different ammo type, finding it quickly. "Your weakness," she said as she loaded it, "is that those spikes are your body. Would still hurt to get shot in them, right?" She fired again, the buckshot round exploding out of the barrel like a shotgun. M's double finger had been caught too fast, and the pellets tore into her logia arm as she tried to dodge again. Gritting her teeth, the agent ducked back into the alleyway and disappeared. Reloading more buckshot rounds, Nijiko drew both guns and waited with bated breath. If the woman got too close, she was going to get a face full of the pellets, so now she was staying away. "What's the matter?" she challenged aloud. "Too scared to face me now that I hit you?" "You're pompous for a rookie, I'll give you that." Ms. Doublefinger's voice came from somewhere nearby. Nijiko checked the rooftops to be sure. "But you're not ready for the grand line. Not with the skills you have." The rain Nami was creating was obscuring both her vision and hearing, making it even harder to detect the agent. The back of Nijiko's neck pricked, her hair standing up on end. She whirled, but it was too late. Ms. Doublefinger descended on her, half a dozen spikes piercing her forearm as she raised it to defend herself. Nijiko cried out as she tried to stay on her feet, the agent pushing her downwards. She tried to aim her other hand at the woman's face, but was stopped by more spikes working their way in between her finger and the trigger. Ms. Doublefinger smirked at her. "You upstarts these days are all the same," she said, "dreaming of having it all, too weak to even make it past the first few islands. Did you really think you weakling could defeat a warlord of the sea? Pathetic. I bet your captain is being killed as we speak." Nijiko grit her teeth, trying to fight off the black spots appearing in her vision. "Shut up," Nijiko shouted, instinctively trying to knee the woman in the stomach. That had been a mistake. Nijiko cried out in pain as spikes tore through her leg. She wanted to collapse to the ground, but the spikes impaling her kept her upright. "Where was that fire you had before?" Ms. Doublefinger demanded, using her free hand to grab Nijiko's face and direct it towards her. "Did I extinguish it already? Tell you what. I'll let you die bleeding out on the ground if you apologize to me. Can you?" Nijiko glared at the woman angrily, her cheeks being squeezed together. She spat in the woman's eyes. Ms. Doublefinger reeled in surprise, the spikes releasing her. Nijiko fell to the ground in a puddle of rain and blood, struggling upwards, using the only strategy she had. She reached for her pouch and the revolver. "Insolent child!" Nijiko screamed as spikes drove themselves into her legs, pinning her down. Defiant until the end. I respect that." Nijiko remained silent as she managed to chamber the round she'd reached for. "And because I respect you, I've decided to give you the death you deserve." A spike through the heart, after a bit of deserved pain. Nijiko groaned as spikes drove themselves into her sides. She couldn't tell if they were piercing anything vital, but it hurt like hell. She tried her best to not black out, but it was getting harder and harder. Even then, she pulled the hammer of the revolver back. "Then what are you waiting for?" she demanded, trying to focus on her breathing. The agent smirked. "Attitude doesn't carry you forever," the agent said, "foolish girl." Comes into the Grand Line with no haki, no devil fruit, not even a decent technique to her name. Did you people really think you could find the One Piece? You won't. You and your captain will die here. He'll never be Pirate King. Nijiko didn't know why, but hearing these words caused something to snap in her mind. She remembered seeing Luffy defeat Arlong. She saw him on the same stage Gold Roger had been executed on. She clenched her teeth. Take that back, she hissed. What was that? Ms. Doublefinger demanded. Nijiko looked the woman right in the eyes, feeling a shout coming up her throat. Take that back, she shouted, revealing the revolver in her hand and pointing it straight at Ms. Doublefinger's face. And pulled the trigger. What's up, Usopp? The sniper had pulled her aside as they sailed up the river towards Alubarna. After stopping the rebels, it was only a matter of time before things were resolved. I've got something for you, Usopp replied, reaching into his bag. He pulled out what looked like a round of ammunition, pressing it into her hands. What is this? She asked, inspecting it. It's a high explosive round for your revolver, he said. I got the idea from that explosive guy you stole the gun from. It's got a ton of gunpowder and shrapnel packed in there. I only had time to make the one, so use it sparingly. Nijiko nodded gratefully, pocketing the round. How dangerous is it? She asked curiously. Well, as long as you don't fire it off at point-blank range, you should be okay. The rainy sky above her head confirmed to Nijiko she was still alive, but how alive she couldn't tell. As the ringing in her ears faded, she began to assess her body and search for the damage. There was blood pooling in her mouth, so she spat it out. Her arms and legs pulsed with pain, so she assumed they were still there. After a moment she could wrap around the revolver, so she hadn't dropped it. Take it back, she spat out, he will be Pirate King. I'll make sure of that. She didn't know why she felt the need to reaffirm that, but she wanted it to be known. Pushing as hard as she could, she managed to sit up. Her body groaned in annoyance, wanting her to lay back down. But if she did, she was worried she wouldn't be able to get back up again. Pushing her wet hair out of her eyes, she looked up to see Ms. Doublefinger laying across from her, spread eagle. Was the woman dead? She couldn't tell. Vertigo assaulted her, nearly sending her back to the ground. She vaguely identified her own hand as she stared at the ground. She couldn't stay here, she needed to find somewhere safe. But she didn't think she had the strength to walk. She tried, and failed, to pull herself across the ground. This was going to be harder than she thought. Things only got worse when she heard a cough. She weakly looked back towards Miss Doublefinger to see the woman retching, curling herself up into a ball. Great, it wasn't over yet. She reached over and grabbed the revolver again, fumbling around in her pouch for ammo. She couldn't identify what she was touching, seeing as her fingers were numb. She rolled her eyes and just pulled a few out, trying to load them. She managed to load 6 shots, cocked the hammer, and aimed at the woman weakly. She couldn't aim straight, so she tried both hands. Sadly, she couldn't get the shot lined up. She sighed, dropping the gun. I knew that was a bad idea, she said weakly. She looked up again to see Ms. Doublefinger had sat up, glaring at her fingers as they turned into elongated spikes. Spike doping. Nijiko watched in shock as the woman stabbed herself with her spikes, right in the upper arm. She watched as the woman's arms bulged with power, as if her muscles were enlarging. Great, this was the last thing she needed. That was a decent blast, Ms. Doublefinger spat, blood dripping from her mouth. I'll give you credit for putting yourself in harm's way. But it's time to end this. Nijiko regarded the woman weakly, barely able to form a sentence. You won't win, she spat back. Why not? The woman demanded, raising her enlarged hand. I've beaten you. You guys in general, Nijiko replied as her head swam. You can't just oppress and subject people with no resistance. This country will fight you every step of the way. Is that a fact? Ms. Doublefinger demanded. Nijiko nodded, her thoughts on Kokoyashi. Yes, she said. Until the bitter end. Ms. Doublefinger regarded her quietly for a moment, before raising her hand up higher. Wait for your captain in the afterlife, she said. Nijiko watched the arm quietly, waiting for it to take her head off. She was really going to die here, huh? This was really the end for her. She hoped Nami and the others would be okay. Surely they could finish this woman off once she was gone. She could hear flapping nearby, but it didn't really matter. Not until Miss Doublefinger was slammed into the dirt by a bird. Nijiko's eyes widened, eyes following the bird as it circled around again. There was a familiar redhead riding the bird. Nami? She shouted in surprise. Stand up, Nijiko. Her sister shouted over the rain, it isn't over yet. Strength pooled in Nijiko's legs, forcing her to stand. She stumbled towards Ms. Doublefinger, who had recovered from the surprise attack and was watching her warily. The agent swung her arm at Nijiko, who fell out of the way to dodge it. The woman then turned and grabbed onto the bird as it flew at her again, stopping him in place with her enlarged muscles. She grinned at her success, but she seemed to have forgotten Nami on her back. Nijiko watched as Nami beat the woman over the head with her staff as hard as she could. A resounding crack tore through the street at the sound. Ms. Doublefinger stumbled back, clutching her head. Taking this as her chance, Nijiko tackled her to the ground and took her pistols in her hand. She couldn't punch the woman if she wanted to keep her fingers, but this do. Rearing back, gripping the guns by their barrels, Nijiko slammed the handle of her flintlocks into the woman's face. She repeated this process over and over again, breaking the woman's nose in the process. Ms. Doublefinger stabbed her through the stomach with her index finger, but Nijiko didn't stop. Eventually, the spike receded and the woman was struggling to breathe. Nijiko straddled her, panting as she raised her gun again. Let me correct you, she said. Luffy will be the Pirate King. My sister and I will get him there. Because we owe him that much. Nijiko struck her again, causing the grip on her gun to crack and break from the force of the strike. She looked weakly at the broken gun, tossing it aside as she collapsed off Ms. Doublefinger. Nijiko, are you okay? Nami and Amon's face appeared in her view, watching her warily. I'm fine, she lied. Where did you guys come from? We were fighting Crocodile with Luffy when he heard an explosion, the Birdman said. Nami saw it was you and urged me to help. Nami smiled down at her. Couldn't leave my sister to die, could I? She asked. Nijiko huffed at this. Guess not, she said. Is Luffy still fighting? Nami nodded. Good, go and help him. What about you? Nami asked weakly. I'll survive, Nijiko said. Please, go and help him. We can't let Crocodile win. We can't let Alabasta turn out like Kokoyashi. A flash of recognition went across Nami's face, making her grimace and nod. Stay here and safe, she said as she stood. I'll be back for you once we defeat Croc, okay? Okay. Go, nodding. Nami turned and jumped on the man's back as he transformed into a bird again, taking off into the stormy sky. She huffed, wiping her wet hair out of her eyes again. She thought back on Ms. Doublefinger's words from earlier, digesting her words fully. What the hell is hockey? She asked aloud. No one answered her. The sounds of battle had long since faded from the tunnel, leaving Robin and King Cobra in silence. She kept her eye on him in case he tried anything, but since she'd given the Straw Hats intel he had been silent. Perhaps he was planning, but it was more likely he was confused by her sudden treachery. I feel the need to ask again, Cobra said. Why are you after the treasure of our people? You don't need to know that, she replied. Why not? I don't intend to kill you, if that's what you're worried about. She saw a flash of relief go across the Mon's face. Then perhaps you feel like explaining why you betrayed your employer? He asked. Crocodile doesn't take lightly to betrayal. I'm aware, she said. But if you must know, it's because one way or the other I'm out of here after this. What do you mean? What Crocodile wants from me, I do not intend to give. When I do not, I'll have expended my usefulness and he'll probably kill me. So, I decided tossing my hat in the ring with the Straw Hats was better than dying. I assume Crocodile wants the Poneglyph translated, Cobra inferred, seeing as you said you can read them. How did you come to possess such a skill? Unimportant, Robin replied, internally wincing. But yes, he wants what it says. I don't intend on giving it to him. Why did you side with him to begin with, then? To find the Poneglyph, she answered coolly. Cobra looked less satisfied than he already did, but grunted and continued leading her along. I must ask you to not reveal the Poneglyph's existence, he said. If the world government were to know we had one. Trust me, Robin growled, I know what happens when they find one. They continued on their way for a little while longer before coming across a massive stone door. Beckoning for her assistance, Cobra went to one side of the double doors and she went to the other. Using her devil fruit abilities, Robin helped the king swing open the massive doors. When she did, the smell of preservatives and death hit her in the face. A tomb, she noted. The royal tomb, Cobra corrected. Where the king and queens of Alabasta have been interred since our inception as a nation. Come, the Poneglyph is this way. Robin followed the man through the tomb, taking a moment to marvel at the architecture. It was very clearly Alabastan, and the dry climate had preserved it for hundreds of years. She saw countless inscriptions on the wall, some she could read, the older ones she could not. Coming towards a small doorway well hidden behind a sarcophagus, Cobra beckoned her forward. Once she joined him, he pushed open the door and revealed what she came for. Robin tried not to show any excitement as the Poneglyph's imposing statue came into view. The massive cube and stone stood ominously in a circular room, illuminated by the torches outside. How many years had it been since someone had come for it? How many since someone had read it aloud? Well, Cobra asked, can you read it? Of course, Robin replied. She could tell that the king was anticipating something. What does it say? He asked curiously. What indeed? Gum Gum Pistol. Luffy drove his fist into Crocodile's stomach, but the warlord was catching onto his simple attacks. Desert Spada. Luffy was forced to diver his attack, lest he lose an arm to the slash. Dodging to the left, Luffy launched off the wall of the building and aimed at Crocodile. Gum Gum Stamp. His foot flew forward, but Crocodile pushed it away with his clawed hand. Luffy didn't float in the air aimlessly, instead aiming with his fist this time and letting one fly. Crocodile simply dodged to the side. Desert Mono Spada. Sand formed in his hand in the form of a blade, and he slashed it at Luffy's arm as it retracted, cutting him deeply as it did. Luffy grit his teeth and landed on his feet. He couldn't get close with Crocodile's sword now, but that didn't matter. Grabbing a hold of the nearby rubble, Luffy began to fling it at the man without a care. Crocodile used the blade to slash through them all without any worry, but that wasn't a problem. Luffy followed close behind the last piece he threw, using it as cover to get in close. He already had his legs stretched up when Crocodile saw him, eyes wide. Gum Gum War Axe, he shouted, bringing his foot down on Crocodile's shoulder. The man was forced downwards with a pained grunt, but it wasn't enough. Come here, you nuisance. With his hand free of the blade, Crocodile pulled on Luffy's leg and dragged him in, forcing Luffy to stretch awkwardly to avoid the claw that swiped at him. Crocodile didn't let go of him, instead swinging him into a nearby building. Luffy scrambled to recover before another attack came, flying back out the hole he'd created. Gum Gum Bullet. His arm snapped forward, but Crocodile disappeared into a haze of sand, reappearing behind him. Luffy didn't get a chance to react before he was thrown back into the building, out of the rain. Enough, Crocodile shouted, coming in after him. Luffy tried to get away again, but his leg was caught by the warlord and he was dragged back. These foolish antics are over, Desert and Sero. Luffy's energy evaporated from his leg and quickly raced up. Looking back, he paled as he watched his own body wither away in front of him. Gah! You're turning me into a mummy. What the hell? Crocodile laughed at his panic. I cannot wait to spread your remains across my new kingdom, he shouted. You've thrown all my plans into disarray, but I'm still stronger than you. You cannot win without the rain. You pathetic child. Luffy wanted to attack the roof and cave it in, but he lacked the strength. He tried to crawl away, but it wasn't working. Where was Nami? He needed backup. Let go of me, he said weakly as the moisture left his lower body. Not until I've drained you of all your moisture, little man, Crocodile snarled. I am owed that much for how big of an annoyance you have been. Where's your weather witch and her overgrown chicken? Have they flown the coop? Get off. He couldn't fight, not with no moisture in his body. Luffy's consciousness began to fade away as his head hit the floor, vision blurry. This was bad. He couldn't let Crocodile beat him. He was supposed to be the king of the pirates. He'd promised Ace, Sabo. He had no get up. He had to. I'm off to the royal tomb to find my weapon, little bot. Farewell, Straw Hat. Do you see them? Nami asked worriedly, riding on Pell's back through the skies. After going to help Nejico, she'd lost sight of Luffy and Crocodile. She hoped the captain hadn't done something stupid, but that was a pipe dream. Luffy and something stupid were essentially synonymous. I don't, Pell replied as he flapped his wings, but I do see some rubble that looks more recent. Nami followed his head jerk, and agreed that the area still had crumbling buildings and debris falling. Why isn't there any signs of a fight? She asked worriedly. No idea, but I fear for your captain. Nami did as well. Using her best guesstimate, Nami tried to choreograph the fight and trace backwards. Pell followed her instruction and dove down towards where the rubble was freshest, and she looked around widely as she got off of Pell. Luffy, she called out. Luffy, where are you? She got no response, so she looked around wildly. Where had the fighting come from? Where had it ended? As she looked, the building near to her crumbled a bit. Deciding to check, she went towards it and jumped towards the second floor, entering in through a hole. When she did, her stomach dropped. The only way she could tell it was Luffy laying on the floor in front of her was his straw hat and red vest. Other than that, she could have easily overlooked it as a body. Damn it, Luffy, I turned my back for 1 second, she shouted, running to his side and fumbling with her clean attack. Preparing it, she doused Luffy with a hose of water from the front. She waited a few seconds but, like magic, Luffy sprang back to life with a gasp. Gah, he said, I don't, Luffy, Nami exclaimed in relief. Thank God. I was worried I was too late. Nami, he asked, oh thank God for you. I was worried I was dead. You would have been, she said. Do you know where Crocodile went? Luffy made a face and rubbed his chin. I think he mentioned something about a dune, Luffy replied. Or was it a loom? What even is a loom? Did he say tomb? Pell asked urgently. Yeah, he said tomb? Luffy looked as though he'd cracked the case, but neither of them knew what that even meant. What does that mean? She asked him, Pell looking alarmed. It means he's after Alabasta's oldest secret, he said, quick, with me. Robin stared at the Poneglyph in silence, her eyes scanning it in alarm. What does it say? Cobra asked again. He was clearly keen on knowing. Robin was silent as she reached the end of the inscription, regret and anger swelling in her chest. It details the location of the weapon Pluton, she replied quietly. Exactly what Crocodile wants. Cobra looked alarmed by this. You won't tell him, right? He asked weakly. You said you wouldn't. I won't, she reassured him, her energy leaving her body quicker than ever before. I just thought, I just hoped. Hope what? Cobra asked. Robin didn't reply as countless thoughts and plans raced through her mind. Had all of this really been for naught? Had she really not found anything of value about the history of this world? Nothing, she answered quietly, refusing to elaborate for the king. It matters not, we should leave. And why is that? A new voice asked. Robin's blood ran cold, and she whirled to see Crocodile standing in the entrance, looking more excited than normal. Crocodile, she noted, keeping her voice even. This was bad. She doubted she and the king could defeat him. You found my prize, the warlord noted as he came inside the room. Now tell me where Pluton is. I know it says where it is. Damn it all, he'd heard her. She'd been so disappointed she'd forgotten to keep it to herself. Sparing a glance at King Cobra, Robin knew what she had to do. No, she replied earnestly. Crocodile glowered at her, and advanced towards her. She stood her ground, trying not to show fear. Tell me where it is, he threatened, raising his claw to her neck. Robin gulped and glared back at him. No, she replied. I won't. Crocodile gritted his teeth. Why? He asked. Why won't you tell me? Because I won't allow you to use such a weapon to ruin lives, she replied. Robin saw flashes of the Buster Call in her memories. I won't allow you to wipe people out with it. There was an eerier silence between the three of them, no one even breathing loud. Finally, after an eternity, Crocodile let out a low laugh. Do you take me for a fool, Nico Robin? He demanded angrily. Do you think I won't kill you where you stand? Go ahead, Robin replied, but you'll never find Pluton then. Is that fine with you? Crocodile grit his teeth so hard he bit the end of his cigar. Damn you woman, he roared, rearing his claw back. Robin took this opportunity to reach into her jacket and throw a glass bottle of water at him. They had been too close for him to evade it, and the bottle shattered on him. Robin reacted instantly, raising her hands. Extra extremities spawned all over Crocodile, and soon she had him in a choke hold. King, run, she shouted. Cobra seemed reluctant, but did as she asked and went for the door. Crocodile tried to raise his hand, but Robin stopped him. She couldn't let him dry out with his power, or it'd be the end of her. Using more hands, she bent Crocodile backwards to keep him under control. "Damn you," he hissed through her hold on him. "You were useful, I'll give you that," Robin told him. "I got to this Poneglyph with your help, but now I don't need you, or it. Give me a reason to kill you." I'll kill you," he managed. Robin scoffed. "See if I care," she said. "I've been running for years. Death would be a mercy you're too cruel to give." Crocodile let out an angered roar, and he fell. Robin realized too late he'd done so to swipe her feet out from under her, and she fell, losing control of her power. The arms holding Crocodile in place disappeared, freeing him. In an instant he dried himself off and reached for his hook, taking off his sheath and allowing the poison within to breathe. He then stabbed her through the stomach, dragging the claw downwards with a grin as she gasped in pain. "You think this changes anything?" he demanded. "The bomb we planted will still go off, Alubarna will be reduced to ashes, and I will become the lord of these lands. Pluton can stay lost." Robin managed a laugh as blood filled her mouth. "No it won't," she spat. Crocodile made a face, and she smirked up at him. "I told the Straw Hats where the bomb was. I also told them how to defeat the other numbers agents." Crocodile stared at her in surprise as she laughed. "Don't you get it, Crocodile? I've been undermining you this whole time. Every plan you laid, all the time you spent, all for nothing because I betrayed you. By now, the king will have escaped, the Straw Hats have beaten the numbers agents, they've defused the bomb. And the rebels combined with the army will have beaten back your fighters. It's over." Crocodile continued to stare at her for a few seconds before grimacing. "For you it is," he hissed. Robin winced as he dug the claw deeper, trying to hurt her. It was fine. She was tired of running, anyway. She had nowhere to go after this anyway. Even if this plan had worked, what then? She joined the Straw Hats. How long until her existence forced her to run from them as well? It wasn't worth it. It was better for her to die here. To finally be free of this curse was a blessing, or so she thought. Gum gum bazooka. Robin was knocked from her train of thought when a pair of wet hands slammed into Crocodile, throwing him off of her and into the Poneglyph. The wind was knocked from Crocodile's lungs as he bounced off the nigh-invincible stone, hitting the ground with a cough. "Run, Nico Robin," she heard Cobra say. Turning her head right, Robin saw the king standing behind Straw Hat Luffy and his navigator. A bird swooped into the room and slammed into Crocodile with wet talons, throwing him up into the air. Straw Hat Luffy charged into the room with a roar, his navigator close behind. "Are you okay?" the redhead asked, kneeling next to her as Luffy went for Crocodile. "He stabbed you, can you move?" Robin coughed weakly and gestured for the inside of her coat. "His hook is poisoned," she said weakly. "There's anti-venom in my coat. Can you get it?" She did as she asked and reached in her jacket, looking around a bit before she found it. Robin felt the vial being pressed against her lips, so she opened her mouth and let the liquid slide into her mouth. She spared a thought to wonder where the will to live had come from, but she could wonder about that later. "Help him," she said, gesturing to the warlord and Straw Hat. "He needs constant water." "I know, you get out of here." Luffy dodged Crocodile's swipe with his claw and punched him in the head, watching as his head snapped to the side. "You don't know how to stay dead, do you?" the warlord roared, a torrent of sand flying from his hand. Dodging around it, Luffy bent his body sideways and stretched his leg, slamming it into the man's side and forcing him to the side. "Rain tempo," he heard Nami shout behind him. It didn't take long for rain to begin falling around them, but there was nowhere for Crocodile to go. He was locked inside in the storm. Pell swooped down from below and clawed at Crocodile's head, and while the warlord protected himself from that, Luffy launched himself in and punched at his head, but was blocked by the claw. "Damn it all," Crocodile shouted angrily, reaching for Luffy's throat with his free hand. Allowing himself to get grabbed, Luffy ignored the hand on his throat and reared his head back. Gum gum bell. His head snapped back to its original position, his forehead slamming into Crow as released. But Luffy latched onto the warlord this time, trapping him in his rubber limbs by wrapping them around his arms and midsection. He repeated the previous attack again, but Crocodile turned his neck into sand and detached it, having it float over his head. "Don't you get it, Straw Hat?" Crocodile asked. "Even if you beat me, You'll die on the Grand Line. You're not strong enough. Right, I'll listen to my enemy on that, Luffy replied, unwrapping the man, then wrapping an arm around his waist. Gum Gum Whiplash. Centering his gravity, Luffy launched Crocodile in a circular motion, slamming him into the big stone in the room. Crocodile recovered quickly, and noticed Pell coming at him from above. Desert Spada, he shouted. Pell had been diving fast, and had no room to evade as the slash clipped his wing, causing him to fall with a cry of pain. He then turned on Luffy, launching another slash. Luffy fell behind the stone for cover from the attacks, but this left Nami open for an attack. Wasting no time, he gripped the edges of the stone and used them to whip around it and kick Crocodile in the stomach, backing him against the stone again. You will die in the Grand Line, Crocodile shouted, raising his hand to block Luffy's incoming punch. The kind of monsters in this world are beyond your comprehension. Without a weapon like Pluton, you could never hope to fight them. If I'm going to be the king of the pirates, I'll take them all down, Luffy replied. He drove a knee into Crocodile's stomach, then headbutt him again. He had to admit, his head was starting to hurt. Crocodile just laughed. You're a fool, he roared, bigger than any I've ever seen. Go then. Cross this ridiculous ocean, and you'll see what I mean. That is if I don't kill you first, Sables. The wind Nami had created in the room for her rain tempo was now used against them, a sandstorm erupting from Crocodile's palm. Luffy felt his feet lifting him off the ground, so he made sure to grab onto Crocodile as he tried to escape. The roof above them dispersed into sand thanks to the warlord's powers, and they floated up into the sky above Alubarna. Luffy whipped his head around wildly, looking for something to grab onto. Finally, he settled on a nearby building's spiral top, wrapping his free arm around it. The rain Nami had created from before was still present, so Crocodile could not shake Luffy's grasp without knocking him out. Let go of me, you stupid rubber bastard, Crocodile shouted, slashing Luffy's arm with his claw. Luffy grit his teeth, feeling as though fire had been poured into his veins. Not yet, Luffy replied, not until you've paid for hurting the people of this country, not until you've paid for hurting Vivi. You're done when I say you're done. What kind of pirate fights for people and not themselves? Crocodile demanded, you're insane. Who cares what I do? Luffy demanded. The kind of pirate I want to be is free to do whatever the hell he wants. And what I want to do right now is defeat you, not just for me, but for everyone you've hurt. Gum Gum Windmill. Using his hold on the building, Luffy spun with the wind of the sandstorm. The elasticity of his body soon made him spin at a frantic pace, the world around him becoming a blur. When he had gathered enough momentum, Luffy let go of the building and sailed through the air, out of the sandstorm and into open air. As he did so, he quickly righted himself. And, using the elastic force from the wind in his own body, spun and slammed Crocodiles with more force than anything he'd ever hit before. Crocodile was flung through an entire building, which crumbled and created a crater where it had been. The rubble fell on top of him, and Luffy hit the ground tumbling, dizzy but alive. He looked up weakly, watching the rubble in anticipation. Nothing happened. As the smoke cleared, Luffy saw a claw sticking out of the rubble created by the building. It didn't move. He watched it warily for a few more seconds, before letting out a weak laugh. I win, he said to himself. He righted himself, took a deep breath, and reared his head back. I win, he roared. With this, he souped to the fire in his veins and hit the ground, head spinning. It was over. The battle between the natives of Alabasta and Baroque Works ended in a total victory for Alabasta. Once it became apparent that the number agents and Crocodile had all fallen, many of the other agents fled or fell in battle. Any left were arrested by the arriving Marines, led by Captain Smoker. Soon enough, Alubarna returned to its peaceful state, and any residents that had fled were allowed to return. If you keep pouting, your face will get stuck like that, Tashigi, Smoker said as they watched prisoners be loaded onto the ships in the harbor of Nanohana. Tashigi let out a dissatisfied sound. It just doesn't sit right with me, she said, that Crocodile was doing this. Because he was a warlord, right? Tashigi nodded, and Smoker adjusted his cigars in his mouth. A pirate is always a pirate. His clemency got to his head. A pirate is a pirate, Tashigi mused quietly. Ironic, considering our allies for this fight were pirates. Smoker made a face at this and turned in the direction of Alubarna. There are always exceptions to the rule, he said. Just so happens Crocodile isn't. Smoker, sir, he turned to face the ship as an officer called for him. What? He demanded. The brass is calling for you, better come and answer. Far from Nanohana, in the capital city of Alubarna, rebuilding efforts were in full swing. The former rebels and the soldiers were working together to restore order and build the city back bigger and better, helped along by the fact that it was raining. Real, genuine rain roared from the skies and fell all over the city. Vivi watched from the balcony of the castle, a smile on her face. She'd really done it. Through everything that had happened, she'd managed to find her way home and save it from destruction. She'd stopped the rebels, she'd saved her home and father. And to top it all off, it was raining. And it was all thanks to the Straw Hats. Vivi had no idea what she would have done without them. Had they not rolled into Whiskey Peak that day, what would she have done? How could she have escaped and saved her home? She reflected on this and came to the conclusion it wasn't her who had saved her Alabasta. Sure, she'd helped Usopp defuse the bomb planted by Crocodile, but she'd not fought any of the Numbers agents. Or Crocodile himself. That was the Straw Hats. They'd had more help than that, too. Princess Vivi. A voice said. Vivi turned to see a soldier saluting her. Yes? She asked curiously. Some Marines down below are asking questions about Ms. All Sunday. They say they can't locate her. Vivi frowned. Are they trying to search the castle? She asked in alarm, the man shaking his head. No, but they are asking for assistance from us, she said. Vivi made a face at this, pondering her options. Tell them All Sunday fled the battle when she realized Crocodile was going to lose, she said. Tell them I saw her running but couldn't stop her. They won't question me. The soldier nodded, but looked uncomfortable. Are you okay? She asked. Oh, well. The soldier stuttered. Are you sure she can be trusted, princess? She was an enemy, after all. We'd all be dead without her help, Vivi replied. I won't see her turned over to the Marines. Not on Alabastan ground. The soldier nodded, saluted, and ran off to relay her message. Waiting for him to leave, she quickly made for a room within the palace. Reaching it swiftly, she was granted entry by the royal guards, who had been placed there by her father. Walking inside, Vivi saw the woman in question sitting up in her bed, staring out the window. Ms. All Sunday, she greeted. You can just call me Robin, princess, the woman said, turning to look at her. I no longer have need for a code name. After the battle, Vivi became aware of just how important Ms. All Sunday had been to their victory. Not only had she saved Luffy's Rainbase team, but she'd given Nijiko the location and strategies to beat the Number agents. I apologize, she said. How are your wounds? Healing, Robin replied as she rubbed her midsection where Crocodile had stabbed her. The poison hasn't damaged me permanently either. I see, Vivi said as she walked further into the room to stand at the woman's bedside. I hear you saved my father. After I held him captive, sure, Robin replied as she turned to look at her. I held Crocodile down and told him to run. You have my thanks for that. I do not deserve thanks for such a small action, she replied. I still helped Crocodile nearly take this nation down. Had the Straw Hats not show up, he would have. I'd be dead though, so I suppose there's a silver lining. Vivi remembered hearing that as well. My father said you saw the information Crocodile wanted, she said, but didn't give it to him. Why? I never planned on it, Robin said. I was using him, same way he was using me. I knew I'd probably die when the time came, but I had to. Vivi nodded, clenching her fists. You still killed Igaram, though, she said in a low voice. And you did help facilitate this crisis. I can't forgive you for that. Igaram lives, Robin said casually. What? Vivi asked weakly, eyes wide. Robin turned to look at her with a soft smile. I threw him from his ship before my bomb went off, she said. He lived the ordeal, and washed back up on Whiskey Peak afterwards. He'll be on his way here by now. Vivi didn't know what to say. This whole time, she believed Robin had killed her closest advisor and friend. Now she was saying he was alive? Thank you, she said. Robin simply nodded, not saying any more. The pair was quiet as Vivi collected herself, taking a deep breath. What will you do now? She asked curiously. The Marines are still looking for you. I'll find my way, Robin replied, making Vivi raise an eyebrow. I haven't made it this far not having backup plans. I see, Vivi replied simply. And what about you, princess? Robin asked. What will you do now? Help rebuild your country? She wondered that as well. Among other things, Vivi replied. A princess's work is never done. Robin just hummed along, turning her head back to the window. I'll leave you be. Don't hesitate to ask for anything. I won't, thank you. Vivi turned and left Robin on her own, closing the door quietly and proceeding down the hall. She only walked a little way before coming across a different door, one that sounded rowdier than Robin's. Upon opening it, she was greeted by quite the sight. 345, 346, 347. As she entered the infirmary, Vivi was greeted by the sight of Yosaku, bandaged all over, doing push-ups as Johnny and Marianne sat on his back. Chopper was watching them worriedly, and she could already tell he'd tried to get them to stop. Ah, big sis Vivi, Johnny greeted, waving at her. Johnny had somehow found a new pair of sunglasses, a pair of aviators. Where he'd found a new pair, she didn't know. Marianne was absent-mindedly painting a portrait, but also waved at her. Further in the room was Nami sitting by Nejiko's bedside, who was bandaged up thoroughly as well. Luffy was arguing with Usopp over something, while Zoro and Sanji were absent. How is everyone feeling? She asked as she closed the door behind her. Good, Yosaku said as he stopped his push-ups momentarily. Big sis Nejiko is still healing. I'm fine, Nejiko replied from the bed, bandages over one of her eyes. I just need some sleep, which is impossible to get with you buffoons around. Vivi, Luffy shouted from his spot with Usopp, we're having that feast, right? We'd better be having a feast. Of course, Luffy, Vivi replied. The chefs are hard at work as we speak. Good. That's good. This seemed to soothe Luffy's irritation, but not Usopp's. This fool is going to drain your food stores dry, he said, jabbing at Luffy's eye. The captain seemed unaffected. Don't overdo it. Overdo it, Luffy insisted, making her giggle. Where's Zoro? She asked, noting the swordsman's absence. He's training in the garden, Johnny said, and so, Yosaku and I must train as well. We can't let far ahead. Stop training. Chopper shouted in annoyance. You're all still hurt. Then you'll just patch us up, little bro, Yosaku replied. This made Chopper blush, but he still looked annoyed with them. And Sanji? She asked curiously. With the chefs learning some recipes, Nami answered. He seemed annoyed to learn that Igaram's wife wasn't what he expected. She could only imagine what that meant, and Vivi couldn't help but giggle again. It was all so ridiculous. The door behind her opened, and she turned to see Zoro walking in with his swords in hand. Oh, hey Vivi, he greeted, placing a hand on her shoulder and patting her before walking past. The greeting was small, but it made her feel like one of them. Zoro, one of your wounds opened. Chopper shouted as he ran to the first mate. Let me see that. It's fine, Zoro replied. It is not, it's on your stomach. Sit down. Exasperated but understanding, Zoro sat down on the nearest bed and let Chopper inspect his wound. You're all insane, the reindeer muttered. Almost dying and then walking around and training. Well, we have to get stronger, Zoro replied simply. We can't just stay idle. Some of us almost died. I'm fine, Nejiko insisted, Nami nodding to agree with Zoro. That reminds me of something, Luffy said suddenly, garnering their attention. Crocodile was talking trash during our fight, and he mentioned how it was sad we didn't have something. Ha. Who? Haki? Hockey, Nami corrected him. He said hockey. What is hockey? Johnny asked as Yosaku continued counting and doing push-ups. No idea, Zoro replied, but it must be important. Did Crocodile do anything particularly special? Not really, Luffy answered with his hands behind his head, at least not that I noticed. So he talked a lot of shit but didn't do it himself, Nejiko noted. Ironic. This made the crew laugh at the former warlord's expense. Maybe we should research whatever that is, Nami suggested, it might be helpful. After we eat, Luffy told her. I don't read well on an empty stomach. You read? Zoro asked. This earned another round of laughter. Before anyone could say more, the door was opened again, and Sanji revealed himself. Food's ready, he told them, you guys are going to be blown away by this. And so they were. As Vivi entered the mess hall with the crew, she noted that it had been stacked to the brim with food. Sanji had clearly warned them of Luffy's arrival. And just like that, the captain became a calamity, jumping to the table and shoving as much food as he possibly could into his mouth. They all followed in earnest, trying desperately to take enough for themselves before Luffy took it all. Drinks were served, and before long everyone had more than their fair share of liquor in their system. "Where the hell is Sunday?" Luffy demanded. "She should be drinking with the rest of us. No food, though. That's for me." "I imagine she wants time to herself," Nami replied. "Away from all this damn noise." "I do too," Nijiko muttered. "I'm working these morons to the bone once we leave." "Little bro Chopper, pass me the mutton," Yosaku shouted. "Are you really asking the animal to pass you meat?" Chopper asked. "Since when do you have a problem with that?" Yosaku asked. "At least you aren't our backup food plan anymore." "That's undecided," Luffy called. "Huh?" Chopper demanded, making everyone laugh. "We may need to consider that, seeing as we don't have Karoo for that anymore," Nijiko joked. "Do you think he tastes like chicken?" Nami asked her sister, making everyone laugh again. "Take your glasses off, Johnny," Sanji shouted. "We're at the table." "Never," Johnny said. "I don't take them off, it's bad etiquette." "Luffy's drooling all over the table though, that isn't?" "Luffy, no one wants to swim in your digestive system, stop drooling." The captain called with a full mouth. As Vivi ate and drank, she noticed that Marianne was missing from the table. Looking around, she spotted the short painter a short distance away from the table. A canvas propped up in front of her. Getting up, she walked over to see what she was doing. "What are you doing?" she asked curiously. Marianne looked embarrassed that she'd been caught. "I like to paint memories that are important to me. So I figured I would, you know." Marianne gestured to the canvas, so Vivi moved to look at it. What she saw took her breath away. The painting was a horizontal shot of the dining table, and everyone present was depicted there. Marianne had gone into painstaking detail on them, capturing their likeness perfectly. Vivi saw her own face depicted in a joyous laugh. She saw Luffy's gluttonous attitude toned down. She saw Nami and Nijiko clinking their glasses together, and more. Towards the other end of the table, she saw Pell, Chaka and her father, all depicted perfectly as well. The background was a bit empty, but she'd clearly started on that. "It's beautiful, Mari," she said, making the painter shy away. "Sorry, do you prefer your full name?" "I don't care," she excused quietly, making Vivi smile. "It's really good," she said, "but don't you want to be in your own painting? It wouldn't be complete without you." "I can't be in it and paint at the same time," she replied. Vivi tapped her foot on the floor as she thought. Well, how about I pull up a chair next to me and you can paint yourself there if you want?" The painter didn't reply right away, seemingly thinking it over. Deciding she wasn't going to wait for an answer, Vivi walked back to the table and grabbed an empty chair, pulling it up next to her. She winked at Marianne, who averted her eyes. She hoped the painter didn't exclude herself. That wouldn't be fair. "Oi, Vivi," she heard Luffy call. Turning to look, she saw everyone looking at her. "What is it?" she asked curiously. The captain chuckled. "A toast," he shouted, "to the heroic princess of Alabasta." Everyone raised their glasses and cheered, making her blush. She abashedly raised her own mug, cheering herself. "If anyone deserves a toast, it's you guys," she muttered quietly. "I barely did anything." "Well, we wouldn't have even been here if not for you," Nijiko told her, "so it's all because of you. Cheers." They cheered again, making Vivi even more embarrassed. "One more for you guys then," she said. "It's only fair." The crew exchanged shrugs, before lifting their mugs once again. And off to the side, the portrait was completed. After a massive dinner the likes of which Vivi had never seen before, she led the other female members of the Straw Hats to the bath. She assured them it was separated by gender, to which Nijiko assured her Sanji could find a way. Once they were stripped and inside, they all sat down in the water and relaxed. The steam incredibly relaxing, allowing the years of pent-up stress to leave Vivi's body in waves. I feel like I'll never get the sand off," Nami said as she rubbed at her arm. "It'll be stuck in your clothes too," Vivi warned. "Be sure to clean it thoroughly." "You okay over there, Mari?" Nijiko called to the painter, who was sitting farther away from them. "Drowning or something?" "I'm fine," Marianne replied. "Just relaxing." "You can sit closer if you want," Nami told her. "We don't bite." Marianne just sank deeper into the water, up to her nose. Yosaku told me all about how you helped him defeat those agents, Nijiko said. I'm impressed at how hard you fought. He did more than I did, Marianne excused quickly. Don't downplay your support, Vivi said, it takes everyone to win a fight. Like how Luffy would have died without me, Nami said. You helped a lot, be proud of it. Marianne didn't say more, so the girls didn't push her. After relaxing in the bath, the four went off to the side and washed each other's backs, Vivi helping Nami and Nijiko helping Marianne. As they did so, Vivi heard a suspicious giggle. She ignored it at first, but soon enough she realized something was happening. Turning to look over her shoulder, Vivi low of the bath. And her eyes widened. Various sets of eyes were watching them over the split in the bath, watching closely. Hey, she shouted, hands flying to shield herself, stop watching us, you pervs. Marianne covered herself as well, whereas the sisters just looked annoyed. You guys are earning a whole day of deck duty for every second you watch us, Nijiko shouted. This caused many eyes to disappear back over the wall, but some did not. Namely, Luffy's and Sanji's. Nami handled them. By flashing them, the captain and the cook flew back over the wall in surprise, raucous laughter coming from over the wall. Now you owe me your life and a year's worth of allowance, Captain, Nami called. And Sanji, you'll be in debt up to your eyeballs for the rest of your life. I'm okay with that, Nami Swan, Sanji's voice said. The sisters just laughed as they sat back down, and Vivi had to admit it was a little funny. Something was nagging at her, though. Father, are you over there? She called. There was a silence. Perhaps, after everyone got out of the bath and Nami wrote Sanji an invoice, Vivi found herself walking back to her room with a smile on her face. Simply spending time with the crew made her feel so energized, but it was time for bed. At least, she thought it was. As she rounded the corner for her room, a familiar face was in front of her. Koza? She asked in confusion. He looked up as she called him, smiling. Vivi, he said. Hey, what are you doing here? She asked curiously. I've been helping the royal guard secure the palace, he replied. Battle did a lot of damage and we're making sure no agents are hiding out in here. That made sense. Even though it had not been the focal point of the battle, the palace had taken a fair amount of damage. Also, I was hoping to get a chance to talk to you. To me? She asked. Why? He laughed at this. Because I wanted to thank you again, he said. You risked your life and ran all over the country making sure I didn't lead the rebels against your father. I had help, she excused. I know, he said, and I still need to thank the Straw Hats as well. But still, you put yourself in the line of fire to save our country. You're a hero. I'm not, she said with a smile. I didn't do any of the important fighting. It was Luffy who defeated Crocodile. His crew defeated the number agents. I just pointed the way. Not all leaders need to fight the battle themselves, he said. Sometimes you just need to be able to point the way for those following you. Says you, she replied. You rallied the down and out of this country and fought with them for a better future. He replied, if only I'd had someone like you by my side to convince me something was wrong. Maybe we could have fought Crocodile before we nearly tore the country apart. Vivi became acutely aware of how close they were standing to one another. When are the Straw Hats shipping out? He asked. Maybe I should go to them now before they leave. That might be good, she replied quietly. I don't know when they're leaving either. Well, lead the way, princess. Vivi turned after a moment to lead him to where the Straw Hats were, trying to relax her racing heart. What will you do now? She asked Koza, turning to look at him. I'm not sure, he replied, rubbing at the stubble on his chin. I was intending on asking the king how I could help, but maybe he doesn't want a former rebel helping him. Father would love your help, she replied with a smile. Don't sell yourself short. He nodded absent-mindedly before looking at her. And what about you? He asked. What's the heroic princess planning to do next? Vivi's smile faded from her face, turning so Koza couldn't see as she led him to the Straw Hats. I guess we'll see, she replied cryptically. The crew stared at the transponder snail as the call was ended, exchanging looks to one another. What should we do? Usopp asked. We should ship out now, Nijiko replied, before the Marines seal off the harbor completely. I agree, Nami said. Bon Clay is the only reason the Mary isn't in Marine custody. We need to take this chance and leave while we can. Eyes went to Luffy, who seemed to be thinking. The girls are right, he said as he stood. Pack up your stuff, everyone. We're going to the Mary under the cover of darkness.